Hello and welcome to Green Pass Gaming. I am your host Flap, and this is the last show of 2020. Probably a year we're all probably quite pleased to see the back off for many reasons. But tonight we thought we'd have a bit of a review of the year gaming wise, and we probably will be touching on the obvious elephant in the room, the pandemic, but more from how that's kind of affected us as gamers and the gaming industry at large. But before we get into all of that good stuff, obviously we need to welcome everyone to the panel. So first up, Puxley, how the devil are you, sir?
Hello, yes, hello chat, and hello everyone on the panel. Yes, I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm really looking forward to this one. As I say, it's also we've started mid this year, and it's really great that we're still carrying on, going strong, and get to finish this year off, for better or worse, talking about games with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, it kind of crops up a little bit later, actually. But, gaming's been important for lots of people for lots of reasons through this particular time. And obviously, what a great year. We've had some new console launches and things like that. So there's been some ups and downs in the gaming industry, and it's kind of been fun to be on that roller coaster, kind of as a spectator. Some of us, unfortunately, have had our fingers burnt directly with regards, perhaps not getting next-gen consoles and stuff. But we're going to go over some of that later. Next up, Assassin Lupa, welcome. First time to the show. We did try getting you on. Oh, I can't even remember what show that was now. And we had some technical issues, but thankfully we can hear you loud and clear. Are you okay?
Yes, I'm very well. Thank you very much for inviting me to redeem myself.
No problem. No redemption needed, that's for sure. No, it's great to have you on board. And you know what? I was thinking this the other day. You posted on Twitter, God, it was a long time ago now, your Xbox setup. And I asked you if I could retweet it, and I actually never got round to it. So perhaps I might stick a link for that if you're okay with that. But you have one very impressive Xbox setup that I will perhaps retweet. It's it's pretty fantastic. Actually, makes mine look stupid. Actually,
I'm sure it doesn't. Thank you very much. It's
no problem.
Taken me some time, but I've got there.
No, that's fantastic. Well, like I say, I will retweet your tweet. VJ, welcome to the show. So I can't see your name. Unfortunately, I came up with some festive backgrounds or overlays, actually, and unfortunately, it's covering up your name. So apologies for that. You are there, VJ. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm good. It's probably a good thing, actually. Phil, that nobody knows who I am.
Never a good thing, VJ. Never a good thing.
But yeah, no, it's good to be back on the show, and looking forward to making the most of today's invite, to be honest with you, Phil.
Yeah, no problem. How are you doing in general? All good?
Yeah, not too bad. Got plenty of things going on in my life, probably everybody has, and but it's good to be able to sort of set a couple of hours aside and just talk games and what's going on somewhere else in the world, rather than sort of like the narrow view of what's happening in your personal life, so to speak.
No, absolutely, mate. And, that's a very good way of putting it, actually, because we all get so wrapped up in our own kind of bubble of chaos, as it were, with this global pandemic and stuff, that it is actually nice not only to play games, because we're obviously all hardcore gamers, I think we could all call ourselves, but it's also nice to chew the fat with like-minded people. And to be honest, that general share of information, I've learned so much from you guys. I really have, and the chat and things like last night. And sorry, Mav, I am coming to you, but I do have to give a special shout to the Indie Gamer for his show last night. And I know 3/5 of our panel were on that show yesterday. It was a fantastic show, and there was quite a few titles on there that I'm embarrassed to say that were kind of new to me, and they're very much on my radar now. And had it not been for that show and our community at large, I would remain ignorant of those games. So I'm really grateful for that. But Mav, welcome to the show again. You seem to come on all of the specials, and I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. Thanks for inviting me. Always excited to talk about games, and especially now it's getting towards the end of the year. Kind of like a reflection and look back on the time that we've had this past year. So it's going to be fun here talking about that and lots of other things. So appreciate you inviting me.
I need to ask you a question. Actually, it's a semi-serious question, right?
Yes,
Do you ever sleep?
Yes, So I'm the kind of person that never wants to go to sleep, and then once I'm asleep, I never want to wake up. And that's kind of like been my MO for my whole life. So I always battle with that. It creates interesting things, but I have to go to sleep to wake up to help get my daughter ready for school.
Right.
Which,
Okay. The reason I ask is because every time I log into YouTube, there's at least one, if not two, videos from Fun Speculation, and that's fantastic. But when I look, they're like 2 or 3 hours each, and it's like, my God, this guy games like 24/7. I swear he does. But
yeah, I've kind of figured that, hey, the easiest way for me to get content on my YouTube channel is just to, just stream, because I'm playing games anyway. And I found it's actually really fun to do that.
Absolutely. No, it is. And I see Caitlin's in the chat, and she's been getting involved quite a lot as well lately as well. So that's great to see. I love that. That's fantastic. Excellent. Well, while we're talking about the chat, welcome everyone in the chat. We've got loads of people in the chat. Maseko, as we said, Red Raven 96, Dragon Wolf, Baldman Gamer, Caitlin, Ragnar, Wakanda XNT. Oh my goodness, choices matter gaming. Sorry if I miss anyone. I am. The trouble is I have to scroll so far up the list because the chat whizzes through sometimes. Eleanor Avery. Who else have we got? Well, Pucks will be keeping an eye on the chat, so please feel free to stick as many comments in there and help us along on our way, because first topic of the evening is the basically 2020 and the gaming year in review. As we know, 2020, and as we alluded to earlier, has been a very peculiar year in lots of ways. It certainly didn't end how any of us probably dreamed it would. And I don't know about you, I remember hearing on the radio, perhaps, I don't know, January time, about this illness that had happened in China, and a few people had gone down and been sick with it. And I remember sort of thinking at the time, oh, okay. But for me, in my everyday life, China is kind of feels like a million miles away. But it wasn't long before it was on sort of mainland UK and obviously in the States. And then, this sort of pandemic came out of nowhere, and it took us all off guard, I guess. And it's been a very peculiar year, and gaming has filled in many gaps that people haven't perhaps had to fill in the past with regards lockdowns and things like that. Lots of people have been stuck indoors and haven't been able to go out and socialise like they would, so lots of people have turned to gaming, and thankfully this year has delivered on the gaming front in lots of ways. It's had lots of ups and downs. We've had obviously new generation consoles come along. We've even had brand new PC graphics cards to come along as well, and obviously big games have come and gone, and good news and bad news. Perhaps I'll start with you, if you don't mind, Pucks. What's been your gaming highlights of the year so far?
Well, that is a tough question, but I think the first thing that came to my mind as you were saying that, though, is, again, considering the whole year, I almost want to start from the beginning, because it was last year's Game Awards at December when we first kind of got the big unveil of the Series X, and that this rectangular cuboid box is a thing, and that's what it looks like, and that's what's coming. And then obviously we had the Austin Evans, and I think it was the Digital Foundry kind of exclusives on the system, and we got the breakdowns of that. And I think for me, that's when a lot of the hype really started to really kind of come up, because that was when we knew it was coming later this year. And it was almost like a whole year's worth of hype. And at the very, very beginning of the year, we kind of got this really nice package or exclusive look behind the scenes of the system. And I think ever since then, obviously, we then had the May showcase and the July showcase. And then obviously we had the end of June Sony showcase. And we finally saw the PS5 after numerous rumors about when it would be shown and different showcases. And it's just been one, I mean, despite, as you said earlier, about how it's been a tough year for everyone in terms of the gaming sphere, it has been very exciting, I think, and it's been really great from my perspective to see how everyone has been able, as you say, to connect through gaming and play, and even people that don't really play games that much have kind of turned to it as just like a medium to communicate with people, but almost realise that at the same time that you haven't got to be a hardcore gamer to still enjoy playing games, talking to your friends and family or strangers online, and actually having a good time. And I think that's what's fantastic about the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, our channel kind of spawned out of nowhere, really. It was kind of the excitement that listening to Boom's show about the gaming sort of sphere, as it were, and the community that he's managed to build up, and getting swept up in the whole excitement of this year and the console launches. But so what specifically? Is there any one moment that kind of stands out for you particularly? Or does it kind of come back to last December, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I suppose it's one of my big highlights, because it took so long and there was so much slow but steady build-up for Sony to reveal what their system was all about, because it was quite early on when we realised that, the new Xbox, or the Series X as we now know it, is a cuboid. It quite literally is a box. It lives to its namesake, and it fits very well. But then, as the hype or as the kind of lack of information from Sony's perspective started to lead on, and then we got the out of nowhere, I think it was 2 days or 3 days prior to the actual event, Sony said, "Oh, we're actually going to give you a live stream," and it was just like, "Oh wow, okay, we're actually going to see what the competition's doing." And I remember getting goose. I mean, I wasn't necessarily going to jump the gun and get a PS5 at launch necessarily, but I really wanted to see what the other, what the opposition was doing, so to speak. And when I saw that reveal, I do remember getting goosebumps when I watched that, and I thought it was like, wow, what a machine. Only from a visual standpoint I'm talking about, because obviously specs-wise we know they're relatively similar, right? But just from the stark difference of, physical design of the systems that each company has gone for. And it was just kind of that goosebump moment of, this is the first time how we've seen... I mean, you can go back to, say, like the 360 and PS3. Yes, they physically shaped different, but they're relatively similar sizes and all that kind of stuff. And you knew what you was expecting. But this time around, it was very different. It was stark, and it was just like, wow, it's so strange in a nice way to see, got one company A going for a very simple design, and company B going for this strange but futuristic looking thing with lights and fans and all sorts of weird stuff. And I think it was, so for me, I think the big highlight has been the console reveals alongside, the events which both companies have thrown into the fray over the year. I think that's done a really good job to kind of build that hype, and we can all now look forward to what's coming next year now. And I think because we know what's coming into the future, and it's now just looking forward to those releases, as well as now seeing what the developers are going to do in, say, the next 2 to 3 years, once everyone gets used to the new hardware and we can get used to these new games. So I think for me, it was mainly the console reveals as well as the main showcases. They were my big highlights.
Yeah, no, to be honest, I feel very similar along those lines. Assassin Lupa, any other highlights of the year for you, or was it all kind of about the console launches? I'm guessing it might have been.
Yes, I really got excited once I saw the box, and not so excited when I saw the other box.
Oh, it didn't tickle your fancy, that one then, the PS5?
Not at all, no. It just looked like a dust trap to me. No. Yeah, I was really excited about that, and I agree with Perks, but the takeaway for me has been the uprise in indie games. There's so many to play, not enough time, and I've really enjoyed a lot of the indie games this year.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, and I've got to be honest. Again, Indie Gamer was kind enough to send me a link for me to be able to vote on some of the indie games I've been playing. And to be honest, I play a lot of indie games, but unfortunately, as I was going back through my list, I realised that I'm actually playing catch up because a lot of the games I've been playing are actually, a couple of years old, and they're obviously fantastic games, but they've been on Game Pass a little while, and I'm still playing catch up with a lot of indie games. So I kind of feel like I'm getting there a little bit. So going forwards, hopefully, I'll be able to sort of play all of the new indie releases. Obviously, in between all of the bigger titles, perhaps. Mav, any other highlights for the year? Any particular games that stand out, or events, perhaps?
Well, the big highlight for me, as far as it was a culmination moment when actually opening the new consoles the day they came out. That was kind of a really good moment because it kind of gave me the feeling that I had when I was a kid. On Christmas Day, getting Nintendo 64, or, Super Nintendo, PlayStation, or, all those kind of things back then. And there's been so much talk and fun, regarding the consoles and all these games that were announced, and to actually have it like kind of, hey, this moment's finally here. Let's all open up these things and enjoy it together as a community was a blast. And then besides that, just for me, kind of discovering this community and becoming a part of it has just been a highlight, for me and my wife this year. And it's you alluded to the pandemic and everything, and part of it could be because of that, for me. So we can get into more of that later, but yeah, it's been an awesome time. Game Pass also, I feel like this year Game Pass has been kind of more fully realized into what it's going to be and come. And that's been really fun to see, with just amazing things keep dropping and give us so much to play. So yeah, I'm thankful for gaming this year. I'm thankful for the community this year, and also that moment of being able to open those new consoles. I was lucky to be able to get one.
Yeah, you did some unboxing videos. How did you find the aesthetics of both of them? You know, the sort of packaging and stuff. Because I think personally, for me, I think perhaps the company everyone probably aspires to be like when it comes to the aesthetics of unboxing a piece of technology is probably Apple and their products in lots of ways. I'm not an Apple fan by a long way, but I do appreciate the time and effort that goes into their design, particularly around the sort of the packaging and the whole user experience. What did you make of that aspect of both Xbox and PlayStation?
Well, I didn't get a PlayStation because my pre-order was canceled. Yeah, by Target. Yeah, they canceled it. So I wasn't able to get it. And then I decided, hey, I'm just going to wait a little while because I got so much to play right now. But I did see a lot of the unboxings for that, and it seemed like more like traditional with what we've seen from consoles in the past as far as that goes. Just, you got the cardboard sleeve on the outside. You open up the box, you pull out the console. It's in the eggshell crates, and that kind of stuff. And that's I'm not saying that's good or bad or whatever. It just seems like it wasn't as much attention put on that experience on that side. But it's also lower cost for them as well. So maybe they're able to put more cost in other things. I don't know exactly why they make those decisions. However, I can speak to the experience with Xbox. And you're right, with Apple, if you compare it to that, Apple always has those nice sturdy boxes, right? And you kind of you take off the lid and it's displayed right in front of you, nice, with nice and neat right in front of your face. You're like, oh, this looks shiny. I want to pick this up, right? And that especially on the Series X, flipping that top up off of the console and having it just revealed in front of you is kind of a wow moment. It's kind of like revealing a treasure in a way, like from the like Indiana Jones movie or something. Or I guess it's just pretty cool. And I think they nailed that aspect. That being said, you only do that once when you open it up, and after that you kind of just keep the box. But I do think that is important, especially with something that has a lot of excitement like this.
Yeah, for me, it felt very much on brand because it had that sort of cardboard wrap around it, power your dreams and stuff, and that was very much on brand and what they've been pushing since December last year. So that all felt kind of good. The Apple products. I mean, even the packaging aesthetically is pleasing to touch, isn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't quite to Apple standards, but it was certainly a big move in the right direction, and I'm really pleased. And I guess, to be honest, I watched a few unboxings, and that kind of spoilt it a little bit with me because I kind of knew what to expect. But I think had I not seen any unboxing videos, it would have come as a real surprise how the box opened and how it was presented. So I think kudos to Microsoft. A bit like yourself, I don't have a PS5, so I can't talk personally from that front. But VJ, any other particular standouts and highlights of the gaming calendar for you this year?
No, not really. I mean, when you did mention it, my mind did sort of cast back to sort of playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've just had a long love affair with the Final Fantasy franchise. But I think going back to what Mav was saying in his intro, I think it's been danger abound, right, with COVID this year and tensions escalating. And we've seen, right, whether it's the game industry or any industry, and the feeling is that, bad feelings, I guess, attract yet more trouble, right? And it's a case of can everybody, not just us, but governments and and pillars of the community, whether they're mayors or whatever, or governors, can put personal issues aside to help save the day, and we look to them, and I think to some degree we've seen a lot of disjointedness. So, and that's why gaming is just one aspect of my life. I mean, I can only speak for myself, and obviously everyone else is going to have a slightly different viewpoint because we all kind of live different lives. But the effectiveness in sort of inspiring one's spirit, when you're actually in a video game, is just like nothing else. And I think the biggest thing for me this year was when Boom actually said, yes, come on to my show. And then he topped that with saying, why don't you become a panel member? So, and for given the way my life is at the moment, that was a massive outlet and a massive opportunity. And then from there, obviously, I met you and Puxley. And since then, obviously, I've got to know Lupa reasonably well. And as Mav said, it's like we talk nearly we're either on a panel or in a gaming night or I'm watching him stream. So I'm not stalking you or anything there, Mav. You haven't got it. Just two you actually got nothing to worry about. So yeah, so in that regard, it's been fantastic. Even though it's been a slightly haunting year, it has still been a pretty fantastic year, given the games, the consoles, and Game Pass, and so on and so forth. But those were just a couple of the personal highlights that came to mind when you raised the question.
No, absolutely, and I completely concur with that because we all have ups and downs. Let's face it, in life and stuff. And gaming is one constant for me, to be honest. And I mean, I love the open world big games anyway because I can just lose myself in there and I can be someone else for a few hours and I can do everything I can't do in real life and all sorts of weird and wonderful sort of decisions and choices you have to make in these sorts of games. And yeah, they are such a fantastic escape mechanism. And what better year to be gaming than 2020 when we all need a large dose of that. And like you say, it's not just about the pandemic because that's just complicated our everyday lives as it is. We're not living and breathing the pandemic. That's just happening around what we do on a day-to-day basis anyway. And gaming is such a fantastic pastime. And I think popular culture and media is starting to catch up with kind of how valuable it can be. And it was in the Game Show Awards, actually, the Game Awards. And I did mean to mention this last week on our show that I don't know if you guys saw, I think it was a professor that had come up with a game to actually medically treat people. And it was going to be prescribed. And I thought, what a fantastic way of actually using gaming as a tool for actually helping people with sort of medical conditions. It's fantastic. Pux, where are we on the chat?
Yeah, I've got some comments here. They kind of fit nicely into another little topic, actually. So I've got one here from Baldman Gamer who says that I was always PlayStation, had all the consoles since the Amstrad, but seeing the Xbox reveal last December made me fall in love with Xbox all over again. And then to follow that up, Wakanda Xbox News today said that it can be expensive, but there is a bit of something on all new consoles, but I am Xbox first and PlayStation, but not offended what people play on as we are all gamers. And I think that is a fantastic point because I think this year, more than any other year, at least in my experience, I think it's been the worst for so-called console wars and people not just kind of doing it for fun. It kind of there's a lot of point where it becomes banter and then it kind of lends into the realm of actually throwing shade at people, cancelling people, and people making really sly comments online, and basically everyone just being moronic against each other, which I think a lot of us disagree with. And I mean, I'm really happy that from the short time that we've been going on this show, that we've built a community of people and have everyone here with us that we don't care what you play, even though we do kind of throw the message out there that we are more Xbox centered than PlayStation, but we are. We don't have any real preference between, and we love them all, and we don't care what anyone, even the panel or in the chat, or worldwide plays, whatever you enjoy. And I think it's that message I hope kind of makes its rounds more across the world as we move into this next generation, because I think, like myself, I'd like to think that everyone else also agrees that we're all getting a bit fed up of people trying calling other people out for being a pony or an export or whatever terminologies exist for those things now, and I just hope that kind of thing stops, if I'm perfectly honest, moving forward. And actually, because I think, and as a contrast to that, I think the platform holders themselves have done a really fantastic job, because not only have both Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony said that they, how tribalistic gamers are basically the worst type of people in the communities, but these companies as a whole have even thrown out public messages and advertisements to say that we are, gaming united kind of thing. We are just the platforms of which you can choose to play on. We have our games, go and enjoy. And I think that's what's fantastic about it. And I really hope that people stop with the whole stupid console war stuff moving forward.
Yeah, I don't think a bit of healthy competition isn't it's not a bad thing, particularly against. I think the thing that grips most of us is it's fine, Sony and Microsoft kind of having a dig. It's when you get the sort of the army of people that sort of march on their behalf and say silly things. And
yeah, that's what I'm on about. I'm all for banter as anyone else, but there's a line that people seem to get across, and then it ends up in uproar. So
yeah, and to be honest, without Sony. And I've got to be honest, trouncing probably Xbox last generation, particularly at launch. I genuinely don't think things like Game Pass might not have come to fruition because perhaps Xbox wouldn't have been wounded enough to have put themselves into a situation where they absolutely needed to do something like that. And obviously, we're still awaiting Sony's response. And it's a great spectator sport to see the sort of the platform holders having a bit of a go at each other. But it's the keyboard warriors that sort of drag it down a little bit. And to be honest, sometimes it can be absolutely funny because some of the comments are so moronic. But it's just one of those things. I don't know if this has been worse. I remember the Xbox One and the PS4 being pretty bad as well, in all honesty. But it does tail off, doesn't it, after a while?
Yeah, as you say, I think especially as we get into next year when more people, once these systems are more widely available and people can just take whatever one they want, if not both, or all three if we include the Switch as well, then yeah, just enjoy it, happy gaming, because I think there's all great stuff coming to all platforms in the next few years to come. So it's all just good stuff to look forward to. And can I quickly extend on what Mav was saying a minute ago and Lupa as well? It was to do with Game Pass, because going back into, I know we're advocates to this, and we're always surprised that we're not sponsored, but it's just Game Pass has really grown this year, and I think it's kind of shown everybody what that kind of model can do. And I think again what Lupa was saying about this year's been a big year for indies, and I completely agree with this. But I don't think it's not just for me, at least. It's not just the fact that there's been more indies now than most other years. I think it's more the visibility of indies as well, which I think's come to fruition through services like Game Pass. And I think that's what's really helped that service. And I really hope that more and more people do pick up Game Pass, because I've said it time and time again on pretty much all of our shows since the beginning that you need to try out Game Pass just once if you haven't yet and you don't know what the fuss is about, because it's such a fantastic service just to know that you can jump in and play all these different games, and again discovering all sorts of new ones as well, which I think is it's subtle but hidden big trait that it has behind it.
No, absolutely. Well, kind of talking about what the chat was talking about and the console wars and stuff. What's been your low light of the year? What do you think has sort of surprised you the most? What disappointed you the most, do you think? Or was it the console wars?
I don't know. I mean, console wars is definitely there as, again, outside of just banter, when it gets into kind of rude territory and all the rest of it, then, yeah, that's always been a low life. I know we could talk about specific stuff. I mean, the whole Cyberpunk launch hasn't gone too well. I think that's an unfortunate low point for me, because I think there was so much hype around the game in particular. I mean, I've not played it yet. I know people who are playing it on like a base Xbox, for example, and they've said that yes, it's buggy, but it's not so bad. So it's kind of a mixture of is it the game, solely the game, or is it people's expectations, or people set their own expectations so far beyond what was actually going to be delivered, kind of thing. But it's a hard balancing act. I think that's been a potential disappointing low point, obviously, which is quite recent as well.
Yeah, well, funny enough, it's gate crashed this show, actually. I was thinking we can't probably do this show without talking about Cyberpunk 77. And I know lots of people have spoken about it. So, I want to try and take it in a very specific direction. And Stubbs Gaming, welcome to the chat, my friend. Yeah, he's just said that, Cyberpunk 27 is a high point for him. And I guess it depends on what platform you're on. But like I say, perhaps we'll cover that in the second topic if we can. Assassin Lupa, anything specifically disappointed you this year around sort of gaming and stuff?
Yes, well, obviously the high was the release of the Xbox and the other console. Toxicity, yes, it's got bad. I ignore it mainly. But I think one of the lowlights was the Xbox launch was so amazing and I was so looking forward to it, and their shows kind of dipped it a bit for me. They could have
that's interesting.
Better. They could have done better in their shows. I think they let the ball drop and passed it to the other court. Although I am a gamer and will game on anything, money dictates what I can game on.
Yeah.
So I have to regulate, and I would love to be able to play on the PS, but especially their exclusives, but I can't afford it, and there's so much to pay. And talking about Game Pass again is my other highlight of the year, because without Game Pass, I wouldn't have been able to afford to play many of these games and wouldn't know that they were so good, and some not so good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to be honest, I'm completely on board with that because, like I say, when I was going through all of my indie titles that I've been playing, I've got to be honest, the vast majority of them are on Game Pass. And I'm guessing the reason they're on Game Pass is because they're so fantastic. And there's obviously some slightly older indie titles on there that I've been enjoying. But I'm looking forward to Game Pass actually bringing out, day and date indie titles straight into the service, which I know it currently does as well. But obviously going forwards, there's a whole wealth of games out there I'm looking forward to enjoy, actually. So, yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, but it's not just indie games. There's some hardcore games. I mean, who would have thought Halo MCC would look so good? Who would have thought Gears would look so good? And it's all free. And the DLC has been free. And
Yeah.
Forza is amazing. And again, free DLC on there. You can't knock it. No, I can't find anybody who could actually give me a really good reason why Game Pass isn't a good buy.
No, absolutely. And just while we're on there, has anyone actually downloaded, played, and completed Hivebusters yet?
Yes, I have. I absolutely
fantastic.
loved it.
Isn't it fantastic?
I even had to tweet out to say that I thought the story and the character development was so good. It's fantastic, and yeah,
I loved
people
it.
need to play it.
Yeah, I love the fact you can re-ammo yourself or resupply yourself. It's a little bit like Battlefield in that front. You just hit Y and you sort of load everyone up. I mean, Hivebusters is fantastic. Graphically, it looks fantastic as well. I really enjoyed that. Just a question actually to the chat and the panel, if you know, if you bought Gears 5, did that come as free or did you have to pay for Hivebusters, do you know, as a DLC?
I think Hivebusters is paid if you don't have Ultimate.
Yeah, it's $20.
Wow. Well, that's quite a lot of money for that, but obviously, essentially, and again, when we mention stuff for being for free in inverted commas in Game Pass, again, obviously, just adds to the entire value. In fact, we've got someone on Xbox Live. He listens kind of nearly every week, and he's not able to chat on YouTube. His name is It's Timmy V2, and he's put on here actually one of his lowlights. YouTube fanboys can ruin gaming, and the console wars of how toxic they can be. And I agree. I think some of the YouTube videos this year from some of the more toxic YouTubers have been really disappointing to see, and that's both sides. To be fair, it's not one or the other. So that's a fair point. Mav, low lights of the year. What was the most disappointing for you?
I'll say that Target canceling my PS5 pre-order the day after I sold my PS4 was
what was the reason they gave? Just out of interest.
They didn't give a reason. So I called and complained and everything. They canceled it, and the money was still taken off of my card. It took 3 days actually for that to even go back. So I don't know. They tried to double charge my card, I guess, and my bank didn't like it. So it was weird. I don't know exactly why it happened or whatever, but. Yeah, so that happened the day after I sold my PS4, which made it worse because then I'm currently actually without a PlayStation for the first time since in probably like 15 years, maybe. I don't know. It's been a while. However, I know I'll get one, and I'm not too concerned about it now. Besides that, I just because I am such a crazy Halo fan, and I love Halo so much, the disappointment for me, even though it's completely understandable and I am completely patient and fine with waiting, was that I was just so excited to be playing a new Halo this year. That kind of was a little bit of a disappointment for me, just to have not have that at launch, But at the end of the day, maybe it's a good thing. So then you guys talked about the toxicity with some of the community, with especially with some of the YouTubers and even people that are on podcasts and all that kind of stuff. I luckily have a weird ability to kind of tune that out and completely pay no mind to it. So it hasn't really affected me that much, although I still see it from afar and kind of like I just kind of chuckle and say, wow, that's kind of immature and lame, what some of these guys are doing. And and I can be guilty of making jokes here and there, we all can, right? But at the same time, that's all in fun. And I think all in all, for gaming wise this year, it's definitely been a lot more good than bad.
Oh, absolutely.
And,
Yeah, completely
and
agree.
that's easy to get lost in sometimes.
Mm.
A lot of people like to focus on the negative, and only talk about the negative. But when you really look at everything that we've had this year, with the new consoles, with all these new games, with Game Pass and all these experiences, and all the good in the community, it heavily outweighs the bad, and that's what I try and focus on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a very good point. VJ,
Yep.
low points of the year for you? What's been the most disappointing, do you think?
Well, I think the most disappointing things is actually what's happening outside of the games industry, all over the world, really. But let's not get into that. I mean, I'll be pretty quick. I mean, you know me. I haven't really been on social media that long, only since July, and so just in my line of sight, the sort of I don't know what you call it, how to phrase it, but what drive-by comments that people make. Just tacking onto the back of what Mav is saying, it's and the way they portray their comments is that, hey, look, don't challenge this because it's beyond a reasonable doubt. And
Yeah, that's a good point.
And my biggest issue is the spirit and nature of our species. I had to throw species in there because I know Mav
yes, dude, there it is.
He's keeping tally. He's keeping tally, and but it's what I find most disheartening, I guess, is people, not just me, everybody's had it. You've had it, Phil, yourself, and being ridiculed for committing an apparent crime these days of being or thinking differently, and that's what I think is most disappointing. But it's not as disappointing, as I said, as some other events going on in and around the actual planet. But let's not dwell on that. I'd rather sort of like focus on the positives today, if we could.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah, there has been disappointing comments, and you do have to brush them off and stuff. And like you say, sometimes it is with it's not so much what's said, it's how it's said, isn't it? And the sort of
they're not from a place of love, harmony, or spirit. At the end of the day,
and I think we all try and go out of our way to make sure that we are stating our opinions. Sometimes we can kind of quote facts as and when we're furnished with the luxury of facts, which we're not always. I've always loved Digital Foundry, I really have, and I think ultimately their work is good, but it can also be used as a my number's bigger than your number thing. We've discussed that a few times, and I know they get wrapped and caught up in it as much as anyone else. Although they can be hypercritical, so there is a little bit of to and froing with that in my mind, if I'm honest, because sometimes I think they can be a bit harsh on one platform or another. I don't think they personally have a preference, if I'm honest. Perhaps the chat will disagree, but
I was just going to say, sorry. I would just think that if people are going to speak and that they know that they're sort of maybe partial to antagonizing others, is just before you write or say something, just perhaps add a dose of kindness to your message, and that would go a long way.
Absolutely, yeah. Think of the impact. Exactly. No, I completely agree, mate. Pucks, chat. We've had some chats come in. Thank you very much in the chat. It's pretty active tonight. We've got the Dazinator, Mysuko, So Shady, Stubbs. Thank you all for being here, people. Very grateful. Dragon Wolf. The list goes on. I really do apologise if I've missed anyone. I am conscious of missing people, and if I keep missing the same person every week, then honestly, there's nothing more in it than just my incompetence. In all honesty, but where are we with the chat, Pucks?
Yeah, I've got a few comments here. So this is actually a response to Assassin Lupa. So Raconda Xbox News today said that this is regards to Game Pass. So they say, agreed, I can now buy more AAA due to the help of Game Pass, as I put more money aside now as I'm in the same sort of boat. I won't read out the personal specifics, but basically they also say they went from a relatively high, a good paying job. Obviously then due to this year, it sounds as if they're now on benefits or something like that, which is very unfortunate. And again, it's those unfortunate circumstances which again can't be helped, and I think again helps prove the value of Game Pass and how if you can afford that small monthly subscription a month, then actually it gives you access to this massive library. So I think it definitely works in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another comment here from Stubbs Gaming, who says, I finished setting up my nephew's Xbox One. up for Xmas, and he's on Game Pass Ultimate, £1 for 3 months.
That's
Incredible
fantastic.
deal, especially for
Oh.
kids, which is
That's just-
definitely true.
It's when you think about the deal, it's absolutely bonkers. I can't remember I had the statistics. Can I quickly find those? I only do this because it's just such an amazing statistic. Bear with me. Let's just see if I can quickly find them. I think they were was it in last week's show notes?
It might have been 2 weeks ago.
Was it a couple of weeks ago? Carry on,
think
see if
so.
I can find them.
That's right. I've got another comment here from So Shady, who says that their worst part of the year is the constant fanboy, false narratives, and overall ignorance of a massive amount of people in the quote-unquote community. The highlight was definitely the launch of the Series X for me. Very good points, which I think we've kind of covered those already as well. And this last one I had to throw in there because I did find it funny, and I think the panel will as well. The Dazinator, who says that VJ's low point was going to Asda and then having no tea bags left.
Designator has gifted us with the fact he's just had a bath as well, which we don't often get in the chat, to be fair.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, a few people have said that. Sorry, Pucks, just going back to my comment, and this is in euros, so I do apologise, but £1 for 3 months, this is in euros, but apparently, as I've said, and this is taken into account the Black Friday deals, if you added up everything in Game Pass, it would come to over €3,000, which, like I say, is 20 years worth of Game Pass Ultimate subscriptions. It's just crazy, absolutely
It's crazy, definitely. And just to say, on the top of shout-outs, I've just had a few people come in. To SX2, again, welcome. Mads Gaming, I've seen. Romancy's in here.
Hello.
I think a few other names have popped up. Yep, so we've got some more people in. Thank you for tuning in. And that's me for the comments so far.
Fantastic. Well, I know the answer to this already, but give it to us anyway, Pucks. Have you got any new games or hardware coming over Christmas that you will be enjoying in your Christmas break?
Oh, very strange that you asked that, I must say. So, yes, I actually got some, for yourself, actually, because you actually managed to help me secure one. But, yes, the official confirmation, the payment has gone out for my post-launch Xbox Series X pre-order. That is due to arrive, on your doorstep on the 24th of, 4 days' time from now, which I really can't wait for. And it also comes with Assassin's Creed Valhalla as well. I'm very much looking forward to jumping into those. And I did have a few other games on my list as well, on my Christmas list, so to speak. I did have Cyberpunk on there. I mean, yeah, again, despite all the comments, I'm still looking forward to jumping in and giving it a go. And of all things, I've actually put Crash Bandicoot 4 on my list. I really want to play. Yeah, I've not played that yet. And I saved it for the next gen system because I love those games. Black Ops Cold War's on my list, so fingers crossed that Santa brings me that. And I actually had Sackboy as well for the PlayStation 4 on my list. I love my platformers, as I've said many times on many shows. I'm looking forward to jumping into that as well, assuming that Santa does bring me all of my gifts.
Yeah, let's hope he does.
It's that main Series X, to be honest. As long as I pick that up, I'm going to be more than over the moon. I would argue that I don't need anything else. I'm quite happy to sit there and enjoy Assassin's Creed, enjoy the rest of what Game Pass has to offer, and just spending time with, as much time as I possibly can with, some family members, and as much as within our limitations and stuff, and just making the best out of it.
Yeah, well, they've taken the money, and I've had the confirmation email. So let's hope they deliver. I'm sure they will. Lupa, is Santa bringing you anything this year, gaming wise?
Well, that's my setup shows, no. I'm pretty
You've
set.
got it all.
Yeah, and I've got Game Pass. The Medium's going to be coming in there.
Yeah.
And, I'm playing Valhalla, obviously. So, no, I'm not looking forward to anything coming at Christmas.
Is Valhalla your sort of Christmas game? Is that what you're going to be playing over the holiday?
Probably, but a shock surprise to everybody. No bugs, no problems, smooth gameplay, beautiful graphics. Everybody needs to try Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Oh, you know what? I nearly bought that because I think there is about 35% off of it at the moment. And in fact, I think it's £35 on the Xbox store. And I nearly bought it. Should I?
Yes, you should.
Right.
If you like RPG open worlds with a good combat system, if you think of Breath of the Wild crossed with Assassin's Creed, but in like the Breath of the Wild shell shading look, it's really cool.
Can I just take my hat off to Ubisoft as well this year? I mean, they've pumped out 3 fantastic games in very close succession, and they really have made the most of the next gen. I know, there was some frame drops here and there and stuff within the first week or 2 of its launch and stuff. But I've just completed Valhalla. There's about 110 hours into it. There isn't really anything left for me to do other than the Yule Festival that they've got going on at the moment, which is pretty cool in itself. But and like you, Lupa, it's an absolutely fantastic game. I saw the odd little bug where someone was just sort of floating along rather than walking, but big deal. You see that with games that have been, had umpteen patches. I think Valhalla and Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft in general have done a fantastic job with what they've released this year, in all honesty, so kudos to them while we're there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you buy a game at launch or day of release, then you expect some bugs.
Exactly.
So yes, they had a few issues with their main games, but I can assure you'll have no issues with Phoenix Rising.
Oh, fantastic. You know what? I was watching reviews and saw a video and I nearly hit the button. So you've just tipped me over the edge. I will do that after this show, to be honest. I will get that downloaded because it did look good.
So funny.
Yes, I heard the humour was quite a big part of it.
Funny. It is. The two gods arguing is hilarious.
Oh,
and
brilliant.
I'm not going to say any more than that, but it's hilarious.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's good to know. Because Assassin's Creed is a bit serious, isn't it? And, if you buy into the story and stuff. But it's quite nice to know there's a light-hearted side of that. That's cool. Mav, what's Santa bringing you? Anything specific?
Well, I have $50 to spend at GameStop left over from trade-ins. And
where's that going?
I was going to get Immortals Phoenix Rising, which is on sale everywhere but GameStop. So,
oh no.
So we'll see. I plan on getting that at some point soon. I'm probably gonna get Yakuza Like a Dragon.
That was, that was the other one that I was bound, because I'm a bit like you. I've got probably 40-50 quid to spend, and I'm thinking, what do I get? Do I get Yakuza? Do I get Phoenix? It's probably going to have to be Phoenix for me, in all honesty.
And then I also want to play Hades because everybody keeps talking about Hades. So I want to play that. It's hard to think about getting any new games, though, when I have so many different things I'm already playing and I haven't been able to finish anything yet, so I keep kind of flip-flopping, going back, playing 2 hours of this, 2 hours of that, 2 hours of this, 2 hours of that. I play a lot of multiplayer stuff as well. So, man, it's been awesome. But my daughter, I tell you, she's getting a huge Christmas surprise.
Excellent.
I've got her a whole gaming PC rig and desk setup and all that, and she's going to be over the moon. Shout out to people in the community that helped me find the right PC, because I'm not a tech guy, So I had a budget that I was trying to stick with, and they kind of helped me track down some stuff that was going to be a good bang for the buck there. So.
You know what? I treated myself to a gaming PC this year, because I know a lot of people didn't go on holiday and stuff, and I've bought myself quite a lot of tech in its place, in all honesty. And a gaming PC was something I bought, and as much as I love consoles, and I do, there's just something. I don't know. There's just something special about a PC. It's just, I think, because when I play on my console, I'm on my sofa, on my TV, which is what I do when I'm watching YouTube or just normal TV. But when I'm sat on my PC for gaming, it feels like a sort of a special event almost. Do you know what I mean? Or quite formal in some ways. And I really enjoy that experience. It is a great experience. But and your missus is in the chat, keeping a check on you as well. Apparently she's your gift this Christmas.
Yeah. Hey, I'll unwrap it on Christmas Eve, baby.
VJ, Santa bringing anything? Got any games lined up for the holiday period for you?
Oh, I don't know. Mine's a little bit hither and yon at the moment. My wife stepped into my room just before the show started and announced that my mother-in-law would be gracing our home on Christmas Day. And it's placed my mind in somewhat of a imponderable brown study, shall we say.
Perhaps you need gaming more now than ever before.
I don't think she'll let me on it. So,
oh dear.
I've pretty much. Mav knows this anyway, so it's sort of still relatively new to me. But Cyber Monday and Black Friday Microsoft were very kind, and I managed. I think I spent about $60 or $70, and I racked up about 10 months of Game Pass with that. So I would have made a well, not a huge, massive saving, I would say, given some of the games that are coming to Game Pass, and obviously the plethora of games that already are in there that I haven't played. So yeah, I'm as happy as a pig in Chardonnay, as they say.
No, absolutely. No, I'm a bit the same, because I've, I meant to mention this actually, Assassin Lupa. When like I say, I've pretty much completed Valhalla, and I thought, now's the time to pick up Control on Game Pass. And I fired it up, and you know what? I could not play it at 30 frames a second, and I know that sounds very sniffy of me, as it were, but my God, it felt so clunky after the silky smooth Valhalla at 60 frames, kind of constant. I had to put it down. I couldn't play it. Unfortunately, it's not available on PC, and I don't want to spend the extra money to get the next gen version. So for me, I still haven't played Control at the moment, literally because it's stuck at 30 frames a second. It was a real wrench. Very strange.
I completely agree. I mean, as gamers, we've been looking forward to 60 FPS for so long. Why would you want to go back to 30 FPS? I mean, Valhalla is so beautiful, so smooth running. I have 140 hours in it so far.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not even out of I forgot.
You've been doing all the side quests, haven't you? You've been doing all the world events.
Everything so far in 6.
Wow.
I've just completed my 6th, I think, area.
Because there's loads of it. In fact, there's one that you didn't even know about. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
I've been to Asgard, but other than that, no. And I can't remember the name. It's on the left of the map, beginning with S.
Shropshire.
That's
Is it Shropshire?
it. Yeah, Shropshire. Yeah. I've just completed Shropshire, and I'm now into my winter wonderland in Ravensthorpe.
Your Yule Festival. That's pretty cool as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, yeah, I mean, why would you go back to 30 FPS? It's just, I've had this argument with a couple of people who are saying, oh, no, I want the graphics and the resolution. And I'm like, no, I lose a bit of resolution for 60 FPS every time.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. Funny enough, I have just started picking up The Witcher 3 and started playing that. And I was a little bit disappointed at first. And I thought, hang on a minute, this isn't in performance mode, is it? And when I flicked it over to performance mode, it's a different game. It's a bit like Valhalla. It's so smooth. And there's no way you'd go back. And to be honest, you don't notice the difference in resolution like you do in frame rate by a million miles. You notice that drop in frame rate much more than you ever would a slight drop in resolution. So, yeah, absolutely. Pux, where are we with the chat, my friend? We've got quite a few people in there. Welcome, Indie Gamer.
I've got a few comments here. One from Shizno Elite, who says that Valhalla is a wonderful game, and Immortals is probably my biggest surprise. It's so charming and beautiful. And it follows up by saying that Ubi and CDPR have made this the best launch I've seen since the Dreamcast launched.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, I kind of concur with that. Certainly better than the Xbox One launch. Yeah, and probably better than the 360 one, I think. Yeah.
And I got another comment here from SX2, who says that Ubisoft take a lot of heat for the Ubisoft formula. And while some of their games can be considered similar, they consistently deliver at least good games. Yeah, which I think is a good point. You don't get many bad Ubisoft games. You just get ones you don't like. I think it's the difference.
We've still got Far Cry 6 to come yet as well. Do you know what I mean? The gift that keeps on giving. We're not even finished yet. I mean, that's coming, was it first quarter of next year, is it?
I believe so. Yeah, because it got moved, didn't it? So
it did.
Is it March, April time now, I believe? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it is. And I love the Far Cry games. They're probably my favourite out of all of them, actually, strangely enough.
Yeah, I've got to put my hands up, I'm afraid. I've not really played much of a Far Cry game before, so...
Oh, wow, really? Oh, they're great.
I've seen them being played, and I've tried them. I mean, the limited time I did spend with it years ago, it didn't grab me too much. And again, it's one of those things where, I've got other things that I'm playing at the time, and then it just didn't grab my attention in that period. And of course, other new stuff comes out, and then I miss the ball, and then the further it goes along, the more you miss, and you realise that there's a whole franchise there you've not really discovered, if that makes sense.
John B's just mentioned on here, actually, he said he's loving... Oh, sorry, wrong one. The chat moved. John B saying he loves playing COD at 120 frames a second on his Series X, and I completely agree. And not only COD, I like actually playing Borderlands 3 at 120 frames a second as well. That's a pretty special... mode to switch on. And to be honest, if we've got games like Call of Duty that came out this year on single player main campaign running at 120 frames a second, a bit like Lupa said, why on earth would you ever choose to play anything at 30?
Can I chime in on that one actually? Because I find this potentially an interesting bit of debate, because I'm not against that at all. But it's a stark contrast in some ways. But I've said for a few podcasts now that I had been playing Ghost of Tsushima on the PlayStation 4, really enjoying it. But that game does run at 30 frames per second, and again, being a base PS4, the graphical quality for me was so good that I didn't really notice too much that there was a frame drop. But then again, there's no option for a performance mode, I think, unless you have the PS4 Pro. So I do find it interesting, because I think it potentially leads into the chat of, as we're going into next gen, I've seen a lot more titles now that are introducing both options. Do you want to go with the quality route, which is, your 4K 60 at 30 frames, or do you go to, 4K 30, I should say, or 1080 60 kind of thing. And for me, I've not experienced it yet, so I can't really base it on anything until I again see it in about 4 or 5 days' time. But my immediate reaction would be that, depending on the game, surely it wouldn't be so bad to run at 30 if the amount of graphical quality is that much better. But it sounds like you guys disagree with that. Is that right?
I think it depends on the game. I mean, the games that we're talking about, like Call of Duty and even Control, sort of first-person shooters, there's no way I would personally choose to play that in 30 frames a second. It can have all the bloody bells and whistles that they can throw at it. I would not choose that. I guess, perhaps some indie titles, puzzle platformers and stuff, it wouldn't make such a huge difference. But I think it depends on the game.
Yeah, I say just a quick one now. I've just seen in the chat, Shizno Elite has said that even performance mode on the PS4 Pro is 30 FPS for Ghost. It's just more stable. Thanks for that correction. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, and to be honest, it sounds like PS5 is the way to play Ghost of Tsushima, because I think that runs at 60, I believe.
Yeah, I've heard the same things as well. Yeah.
I would add that it's become kind of harder for me to go play Watch Dogs Legion after I played Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
And isn't it strange? Because before let's not get wrong. Sega Mega Drive and Genesis games were running at 60 frames a second. This isn't something that's new. It's just that perhaps as modern console gamers, we've always been at the arse end, shall we say, of sort of game choices or game dev choices, particularly when it came to frame rate. So I think as console gamers, we're kind of used to getting the rough end of the deal. But now the doors have opened slightly, Mav. You can start to see that actually there's this whole world out there that we've been denied all of this time, and you just don't want to go back.
Yeah, it's the biggest difference for me. So Assassin's Creed Valhalla playing it at 60 frames is like, wow, this is a different experience than actually I had anticipated. I didn't expect that kind of leap going into next gen, because we're talking about, hey, the visuals aren't going to be as dramatic of a turn this jumping into a new generation. It's not like when we got a Nintendo 64 and saw Mario running in 3D for the first time, right? Yeah. Or even playing on the PlayStation 1 for the first time, right? So like those kind of jumps were supposed to be over for me. However, with everything that these new consoles do as far as speed, performance, and everything, that quickly loading into things, the snappiness of everything, the feeling, and then also if you combine that with the fluidity of these games running at 60 frames per second, for me, it's a transcendent experience that actually improves gaming for me more than anything has ever done before. And it's made everything that much more enjoyable, just because the whole entire experience, from turning on the console to playing the game, and the quality of what you're playing is better, minus the bugs and everything with some of these games we've been dealing with. And I think a lot of that could be chalked up to the pandemic as well, and also you're dealing with new hardware. That's going to dissipate over time, right? That's something that is kind of a now problem, not necessarily a future problem. So besides that, I think that it's just been amazing to see how much better these games are than I thought they were going to be. And then knowing that, hey, this is the beginning of this generation, it's only going to get better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's mind-blowing to me, thinking about what the experiences that we're going to get 3 years from now.
Funny you should say that, because when I was playing Valhalla, and there's some close-ups of Ivor's face, and I remember thinking to myself, this is going to look crap in 3 years' time, but right now it looks fantastic.
Yeah. But like if you play Watch Dogs Legion, it's in 30 frames per second, right? And it's kind of like it feels different than Assassin's Creed Valhalla, right? You can tell the difference. It makes a huge impact.
Yeah. Sorry, Lupa.
Yeah, I was just wanted to add to what Mav has to say because I totally agree with him. But I wanted to add also the low latency and the feel of the controller is so adding to the experience as well.
Absolutely, certainly on Call of Duty. I like the Twitch reaction of Call of Duty as Pucks, as I've said before. We play Call of Duty a hell of a lot, and yeah, with games like that, you really can notice how the difference the low latency does actually bring to the experience. And I think Mads mentioned it in the chat that Phil was on about the feel of games, and this is exactly what he's on about.
The controller feels so nice in your hands. They've adjusted the buttons, the bumpers, and with the grip on the triggers as well, and the snappiness of the D-pad. I just think it makes a massive difference, as well as you can see with your own eyes the low latency. I switch back just to watch the difference between my old console and the controller and my new console and the controller. And quite often I've thought, oh, shall I? No, I'm sticking with this controller.
Yeah, you know what? I'm in the same boat. Absolutely. Yeah, completely agree.
Well, before we get too far away from this, I wanted to make a suggestion to Puxley here. So regarding Far Cry.
Okay.
All right, so Far Cry 4, Far Cry 5, they're really good games. They're fun. But if you're looking to get into the franchise, possibly, Xbox One had a remaster of Far Cry 3. And it's usually, a lot of times it goes on sale. So whenever you see like the Ubisoft sales and stuff like that on the dashboard, sometimes you'll find it for like $5 or $6. But Far Cry 3 Classic Edition holds up. It plays really well, and to me, that's the best story in the series. So that would be the one to dive into.
Completely agreeing. That's the one I cut my teeth on, and I've actually got 3, 4, and 5 on disc, Puck, so I'll lend them to you. It's not a problem.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, I appreciate the suggestion. No, I appreciate the suggestion. Thank you very much. I say I'm going to be pretty busy at Christmas, I think, especially with Assassin's Creed. But yeah, if I see that on sale, I'll definitely check it out.
No, that's a really good shout, Mav. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Did we catch up with the chat in the end?
We did for now, yes.
Right. Okay. Well, let's just round this one off with a couple of things, couple of points. How we think the gaming industry have handled this particular difficult year with COVID, either platform holders or game devs, and what we're looking forward to next year. So let's try and keep it brief because we're already an hour into this show, and I've had a great time already, and the chat's fantastic tonight. So really enjoying seeing the chat and interaction. So yeah, how do you think the gaming industry have handled the COVID situation? Have they done a pretty good job considering?
Are you asking me? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Pucks. We'll go around again.
I think a lot of companies worldwide should be commended. If I'm perfectly honest, I think it's quite easy to see keyboard warriors complaining and moaning about how games shouldn't be in the state they're in, blah blah blah. But I think no matter what industry you're in, the transition to working from home, from being in an office environment, is difficult, and especially if you're in in game development when you need to run code on test builds on dev kits and stuff, which obviously not everyone's going to have access to in their home environments. Yeah. So I can imagine it's very difficult to get into those situations. So as sad as it has been to see certain large titles be pushed back and delayed into next year, I think I can't help but not commend the just the passion and the time that these guys are putting in to get the job done and to release these titles under these very difficult conditions. And I think it even shows how great things are, or how well developers are working from home to for the games that we have seen on this side of the year. So as much as it has been a tough year for the industry and multiple industries, I can't help but just commend how well I think a lot of people have transitioned working from home.
Yeah, and that goes for game devs and obviously the platform holders as well, to actually get these consoles to us, and retailers. And I know things haven't been peachy smooth, and strangely enough, I'm not convinced that the things that kind of went wrong with the retail and the actual launch and sale was probably COVID related, because a lot of this was obviously scalpers, and obviously in the UK the all access thing went wrong, and I don't think that could probably be blamed on COVID potentially. But yeah, I mean, massive kudos to everyone in the industry from my perspective as to how they've handled it. Lupa, it's been a pretty amazing year, hasn't it? Given the troubles that everyone's had and the games that we've received, like I say, particularly from Ubisoft and stuff. What's your take on this particular year and how they've handled the situation?
I think they've done amazing. I can't imagine if you're in an office like working on computer stuff and games, and then you're reduced to being alone in your home, not having access to the people that you would normally talk to, or having access to just a little thing in your game that you think, oh no, that's a bug, we've got to mend that, but you haven't got the equipment to do so. How difficult that must be. And I think we are very, very lucky gamers. I think
that's a good point.
It's great to be a gamer right now, and it's great what they managed to get out on all gaming platforms.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And like you say, I work in an office, or I did back in March. I haven't been in the office since then, to be honest. But, it's always that sort of tapping someone on the shoulder saying, oh, by the way, did you know this? Or can you help me with that? Straight away you lose that working from home. And it's those sort of little intercommunications that you have with colleagues that actually makes the wheels of the machine turn a lot smoother. And like you say, if you deny people that, then it becomes a really awkward machine and gears to turn. And like you say, we are lucky as gamers, as much as people have been toxic around some of the issues with some of the games. We are lucky to have them in the first place, to be honest. But completely agree. Mav, what's your take on the situation?
I agree that they, it's been much better than I think anybody at first was anticipating, especially when you consider movies and how they kind of what's happened with them, right? A lot of movies get shut down, theaters are closed, that. And what I'm talking about is for different forms of entertainment. You got movies, you got TV, you got sports, all were majorly affected. And that's part of the reason actually I started dealing more with YouTube. Just there's less stuff to watch, less stuff to pay attention to, right? But as far as that and how they've been affected, if you look at the gaming industry, it's actually they've actually boomed in the same time when everything else has lost attention, right? And eyes have less time over on movies and sports and TV, and now they have more attention over with video games because they've been able to keep coming out, and there hasn't been that extreme amount of delays or anything like that people are anticipating. So that's the one entertainment industry that has really kept afloat, kept people having something to do, and that's part of the reason why the sales have boomed so much for all these companies, is because they have maintained, they have steadfast and held through this, and to the benefit of all of us, especially with not only is it a time when you're just releasing games and stuff, but it's also a next generation launch time, which the timing of that is even crazier, right? To have to deal with next gen launch of consoles during this, it would be problematic in any other year, but to have this also this year, to manage to be able to still have all of that happen was a feat that I think is especially suited for the gaming industry, being that most things are created via computer, right? People can sit in front of a computer. You can work remotely, but the challenges of doing that is going to be different for every studio, every company, because they all have their own ways of working. Managing it like that is tough, and they did a great job, I think, as an industry as a whole. Now, we've seen more bugs probably than we would have, right? We've seen a few delays than we may have. But when you compare again to all the other entertainment industries out there that are at the scale of video games, it's kind of a testament that they've been able to steadfast and give us some joy and fun in this down year.
Absolutely, and to be honest, as gamers, thank God we had some new generations launching today. This year, sorry, because like you say, it gave us all something to look forward to. And again, a bit like we went back to the big top of the show. Pucks and I created Green Pass Game, and then yourself, Mav. And even VJ on Boom's show. We all got sort of swept up in the hype, and you, Lupa, we all got swept up in the hype, and I'm so grateful for that because it's been such an enjoyable year on so many levels. Okay, it's had its ups and downs, but there's been so many more ups than there have downs, and to end up with either your Series X or S or your PS5 or whatever, it's just such a fantastic experience. VJ, I mean, you've been in the business. Has the industry coped a lot better than perhaps you thought it might do given the current circumstances?
I mean, you know how it goes. Flap, you've been doing podcasting for quite some time now, and you can castigate and decorticate developers and publishers and find fault or even create issues that aren't really there, especially if you are indeed so inclined to do so. I can only really echo what Mav and Miss Lupa have already sort of expressed, that I'm grateful that I managed to afford and secure a Series X and have had no issues with it, and let alone a few gems out of all of the games that are available to each and every one of us. And I think grateful is the grateful is the only real word that sort of falls into into my mind or my band of frequency. So yeah, it is what it is, and for me, as I said, I'm extremely happy. So no issues here.
No, absolutely. No, that's good. And to be honest, like I say, I know you got sort of industry experience and stuff. And, I did, I think it was on YouTube. Sometimes YouTube pumps videos your way. And there was a video about how large corporations deal with each department on just solely using computers and stuff, and how they program APIs. I think it was around car manufacturing, strangely enough. So someone that, a department that might actually be programming the ECU to be able to handle things like the engine timings and things like that. Well, there's probably need to be an APU for the guys and girls that are programming the sat-nav to be able to take control of that, or the all of the different various functions and stuff. And they were saying about all of these APUs link in with each other. And it's no different in game development and stuff. But obviously, when you're all sat in the same office, like I say, if you can go and tap someone on the shoulder and just have a quick 5-minute chat with them about how they go about X, Y, and Z. But like I say, when you're all stuck at home, you don't have that luxury quite so easily. And like you say, it's a good word. I think we should all be grateful for the platform holders delivering us what we have and the games that we get into play. And they are fantastic games. So,
sorry.
No, go on.
It's okay. No worries.
Pucks, I don't think we've had too much more in the chat since, have we?
No, I saw okay from a number of people in the chat. I have seen. Did I see something here? I've got one here from Mexico, actually, quite interesting. It just says, it's actually a question to one of the chat, but it says, do you remember the Fallout 1 and 2 back in the day? They got enough issues and patches took ages compared to nowadays. I just thought that was funny because it's true. Older games, you see. You kind of, what you got is what you get kind of thing, and patches weren't even a thing, at least on early consoles. I think it's quite funny when you look in contrast now how, the bar has been risen so much and how expectations have changed naturally, of course, as to what we expect from games now. So that was just a quick comment there that I thought was interesting to look at the transition between, over the last 20 odd years, I'd argue.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And that kind of brings us nicely onto our second topic, in all honesty. Cyberpunk 2077, and I don't want to end the show on a low note, and if anything, if we can try and end it on a high note, but I didn't answer the question myself. I'm hoping that Santa's brought me Cyberpunk 2077. Hopefully it will be coming. I've been desperately trying to get Valhalla finished in time, and thankfully I have, so I should have some spare time to be able to play Cyberpunk, and then it all kicked off on the internet. So I just thought we'd kind of go round and just put our thoughts to the game, really, because it is a huge title that lots of people have been incredibly excited about. And we'll start with you again, Pucks. We'll go around like normal. Do you think Sony's approach to pulling Cyberpunk was the correct one?
Just very quickly, before I get into this, I've just seen a question headed your way from Romancy in the chat who says, Flap, have you ever played Ark Survival Evolved?
Oh, I had a dabble very early on, but I never. It was one of those games that I always had other games on the go, so I never really got into it. But I'm intrigued why you ask. Should I be playing it? That's an interesting question. I didn't like the Vin Diesel spin-off by the looks of it, but
Yeah, we'll wait for a response on that, I guess. Yeah, but to answer the question, I'm not sure. I mean, again, I've not played it myself. It's on my Christmas list, and I am looking. Despite everything I've read, watched about the issues in the game, I am equally looking forward to it because for every comment that I've seen of someone saying that it's garbage or runs like trash or whatever else, someone else has then turned around and said, yeah, it's buggy, but it's no different from what I've played on an old Fallout game, and actually it's perfectly fine. So I don't know. It's hard for me. I don't know what. Sorry, I don't know what the best answer is to say whether or not it's the right move or not, because I can't help but potentially feel that maybe there's just been so much media storm around this, and the traction's kind of built up to say that this game is in an unacceptable state. When, I mean, if it is, then that's fair. Fair play. Whatever. As I say, I haven't played it, so I can't call fair judgment. But this isn't the only game which has been released in, a quote-unquote bad state or unplayable state. Yet a lot of these old games have been perfectly, users have gotten used to it. You accept that games have bugs and you just roll with it. But nowadays, at least with this title, there's, I think, just a simple line of, textures pop in and out. This is unacceptable. And it's like, have you ever played a Switch game? I've seen so many titles, like third party mainly, but titles that come to the Switch, for example, and they're not the best graphically just because of the limitations of the hardware. Yet I myself have played some of these titles and I've perfectly enjoyed them because I'm playing it on a Switch. Obviously, you're not going to be seeing Cyberpunk on a Switch anytime soon, unless it streams at some point. But I can't help but feel that maybe the platform holders are being caught up maybe too much in the media, shitstorm, just to be very blunt about it. Yeah, and maybe it's been taken too far. I mean, I even saw a tweet the other day of someone saying that they requested a refund, which was successful, but then they were shocked that they couldn't then still have access to the game. And, hold on, you're removing it from my library? But you've given me a refund, but I still wanted to play it, and it was like the most backwards argument that I saw on Twitter about I've basically given my game back because I think it's unacceptable and I don't like it. Fair enough. Oh, but you're removing my digital copy? What the hell? I didn't understand it, but maybe I don't think it was the right choice because I'm not sure whether or not it's a portion of gamers that are maybe getting a bit too. Again, this is what I was saying earlier about the bar potentially being the expectation bar potentially being so much higher than what maybe the devs intended to put out there, or the public, CD Projekt Red, for example. But I don't know, because there's also been some comments about CD Projekt Red potentially having taken shortcuts during the qualification process. So maybe there are some more behind the scenes, shitstorms, I guess, going on. Yeah. That maybe that's why PlayStation have pulled it. Because I know Xbox now have also put a warning if you choose to buy it digitally, haven't they? But I'm not sure if pulling it was maybe the right choice. But again, because of that whole comment, the official comment I saw about potential shortcuts being taken in certification, then if that is true, then I can see that as a valid reason. If Sony did see precedent to say that actually this hasn't been certified properly, therefore we're going to pull it, that makes sense to me. But if it's just because of what the media have been saying, then I would argue maybe it sits in a different ballpark.
It does seem harsh, doesn't it, for Sony to do that? And it does kind of seem that there might not have been any communication with CDPR over it because nothing was really mentioned on their Twitter. Perhaps there was, perhaps they chose not to mention it, and it was obviously be a bit of an embarrassment. And there's also been some leaks come out that a lot of the devs, back in January, I think, when the PR side of things, they were saying, the game is actually up and running, we've got some bugs, and there was some people back in January saying, why have you told the public that? That was clearly not the case. So there's obviously been some internal wranglings, but to be honest, that probably goes on for a lot of titles, in all honesty. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Lupa, what's your take on Sony's stance and the game itself? Have you actually played it?
No.
Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, I made a decision way back. I had 4 games I wanted to play. Valhalla, Phoenix, Cyberpunk, and Watch Dogs. And I thought, there's no way I can get through all of those games
Yeah.
at the same time. So I decided to drop Watch Dogs because I wasn't too keen on the first two. I'm glad I did in the end. And Cyberpunk because it was delayed anyway, but I really wanted to play Valhalla and Phoenix. I'm looking forward to the medium. So I thought when I've got those sorted, I'll get Cyberpunk. I may be able to pick it up a bit cheaper. They'll have sorted any bugs that there may have been because at the time it hadn't released, and then I can enjoy it to its fullest on my Series X because I was going to wait for the day one pack, the
Next gen patch.
Yeah, next gen patch. So that was my choice, and I'm glad I've stuck to it. But on the same note, I think that it's unfortunate what's happened. I'm sad for gamers who are having a bad time over it. I do think there are an awful lot of people taking, let's say, the mick or the piss, whichever one you like, over it, and are really rubbing it in and winding it up when they probably haven't even played the game, and wanting to play the game when they've got a refund is absolutely ridiculous and disgusting way to behave. And but I think that Cyberpunk itself, I don't think the devs are to blame. I think the publishers wanted it out. They didn't want another delay. I don't think they were ready. And the main thing I take away from it is that what Sony did, they did. Whether it was a PR stunt or what, I don't know, but it was definitely on the back of the hype. But I do think that people forget that The Witcher released with so many bugs, it was virtually unplayable. And they sorted that out.
Exactly. I was playing The Witcher earlier today, and it's really good now. But like you say, I remember it. I won't call it a buggy mess because that's kind of disrespectful. But there were lots of bugs and stuff in it. But it is one of those huge open world games, and anyone who likes any of the Fallout series knows that that just goes hand in hand.
But the thing is, CD Projekt Red are a really good consumer friendly company. And they will put it right, as they did with The Witcher, giving people free DLC. And I think that they will do the same with Cyberpunk. I don't think it's that bad. As I've had a lot of friends in the chat, community game nights I'm involved with, and people I talk to on the personal level who have had a really good time with it and have no problems whatsoever. The same as I have had with Valhalla, absolutely not a single problem. Yet there are a lot of people saying there's this wrong and there's that wrong and there's so many problems. I don't see it. I haven't.
The developers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mav, what was your take on Sony's stance? Because as far as I'm aware, the next generation version of the game's okay. And we did have Luke Steele on last week, who mentioned that he'd played it on PC and there were some bugs. Not that he'd mentioned any sort of game-breaking bugs, but there were some silly sort of bugs with people floating and all kinds of stuff. But, as far as I'm aware, that the next generation console version of the game seems to be pretty good, actually. So Sony pulling it, aren't they denying all of the PS5 owners the opportunity to kind of play this? It seems an odd one to me.
Yeah, so I've kind of talked about this a few times, and there's definitely mixed feelings because the game to me is a great achievement. It's a great game. And a lot of this hate is kind of overkill, right? But a lot of the fallout from it is also CD Projekt Red's own doing because their messaging with like the apology letter and stuff was really bad. So if they had handled things differently on their end, as far as approaching the apology letter or whatever, just better messaging after the fact, it would have prevented a lot of this. So as far as the game goes, I think that I've played a lot of broken games that have a lot of bugs around launch, right? Watch Dogs, you couldn't even save your game for a lot of people. You had Call of Duty Black Ops Cold Wars crashing all over the place. Miles Morales had a lot of bugs, that were captured on footage and stuff. Now, bugs are bugs. But what people are having issues with is performance issues on old gen consoles. Okay, so you're talking about Xbox One VCR, and you talk about the PS4 and even One X and PS4 Pro to an extent. I've talked to enough people now that have those consoles that are playing the game, that they say they're having a decent experience, and it's no different really than other major big huge RPGs that are launching on those consoles, right? They are not going to be performing as well as Series X, PS5, and high-end PCs. Now, however, because they did not show that stuff ahead of time to reviewers, to people in the media, and to people that had early access, it kind of led to this unreasonable expectation that people had where everything they saw was at this next level. And when people were asking, hey, what's your most anticipated next-gen game? People kept saying Cyberpunk. Well, it's not a next-gen game. It's actually a last-gen game.
Yeah, exactly. It was supposed to launch in April, wasn't it, on the current-gen consoles?
Yeah, so this is where the
last-gen consoles.
problem with the messaging comes into hand. Because when they said that apology letter, they said, we apologize for not paying enough attention to the last-gen consoles. When that's what they've been developed for 7 years. Right? So how can that doesn't make sense? It doesn't add up. It comes across a little shallow and hollow, right? And then also on top of that, say, hey, we didn't pay enough attention to your release of your version of the game, but also if you aren't happy with it, contact your company for a refund. So there's going to be a flood of people at that point being like, yeah, this pisses me off. They didn't pay enough attention to my game. Of course, I'm going to get a refund, right? So, of course, then Sony's going to get flooded with these refunds, which they normally do not allow. So, at that point, that kind of forces Sony's hand, and they have to have a conversation and figure out a solution on how to handle this. They got to create a special occasion thing for Cyberpunk, because CD Projekt Red is forcing their hand in this when it was unnecessary. CD Projekt Red could have just simply said, hey, we're sorry for the state of the game it's in. Patches are coming. Please bear with us while we try and support this game in the community. We're going to come out with free content in the future to make up for it. Everybody would be okay. That's great. But to release the apology they did just kind of exploded this thing into another level. And now you got like New York Times is reporting on this thing, Forbes, and like all these major outlets, and it's going to cascade into something that is much bigger than it ever needed to be. Because, like you guys say, it's no different than Fallout 76, Marvel's Avengers. All these different games come out that, hey, they're not exactly what we hoped it would be with performance and bug issues. It's not just Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is being attacked as a scapegoat, but again, partly their own doing with the poor messaging and how they handled it and setting unreasonable expectations for the game in the minds of gamers. So it's kind of a mixed feeling. I am enjoying the heck out of this game. I think the writing in it is incredible. The gameplay is incredible. Nothing can be taken away from me and what these developers have created in creating a once-in-a-generation game. If people are patient and just deal with the bugs and a little bit of things here and there, you're going to have a great time. And don't focus on the negative, focus on the positive. It's an amazing experience.
Oh, thank you. I was after that kind of appraisal of it because, like I say, do I fire it up on Christmas Day? You know what? Yeah, I am, because, like you say, lots of people I've seen in the chat saying, you know what, it's a fantastic game. I'm not playing it on the last gen consoles. I've got my Series X, and there's absolutely no reason not to. And like you say, I can put up with the odd glitch and bug here and there as long as it's not game breaking. But even if it is, you start again, don't you? I'm not going to throw all my toys out the pram because a game that I'm playing isn't quite working right. People do get overly easily offended sometimes, and I do agree. I think CDPR
also,
right? Exactly. So. Yeah, but I completely agree. I think CDPR have created their own monster with this, and I think it goes back a little bit further. Even if it wasn't ready for launch, then they should have just bitten the bullet and just delayed it again. And I know that would have hit them hard, and they would have missed the Christmas or holiday rush, as it were. But it wouldn't have ensued with this kind of shitstorm that's happened there, and them having to sort of refund people for a game that will be fixed and brilliant at some point in probably the near future. VJ,
if they're refunding people, though, sorry to interrupt again, but why isn't Square Enix refunding people? Why isn't Activision refunding people? Why isn't all these other developers and publishers refunding people for games that are awful? A lot of issues.
Exactly. It's a very strange move for them to make, to refund people, isn't it? Like you say, why don't they just say, look, hands up, really sorry, we're going to work tirelessly to get this fixed. We'll get it to be the game that you deserve it to be. VJ, what's your take on all of this? It's just such a shitstorm, isn't it? I don't understand the logic from CDPR.
There's so much to say on this. It might take me 2 hours to express
Go for it. No, go on. I'm intrigued.
Look, about 4 weeks ago, I mentioned on Stubbs Midweek Gaming podcast that we were discussing, the ambition of the game and the magnitude and just the sheer beauty of it. And I said, you know what? Just looking at the game, just like in the cold light of day, I just can't see how this is going to run well on last gen console. And then I kind of sort of stepped away from that comment, and I thought, well, we did think the same of The Witcher 3, being announced for the Switch, and my goodness, isn't that a little ambitious? But it came out really well. So I thought maybe the disparity in visuals will be that of last gen consoles, 30 frames per second, and the great visual fidelity, draw distances and whatnot, versus obviously the Digital Foundry analysis of the Switch version, while saying, hey, look, it's a great portable version. Well, it is the only one available, right? So, but look, I've played the game, I love it, I'm enamored with it, and I have no issues with it. But let's just look at it from the perspective of everybody. And but I don't want to pummel and dress down CDPR and Cyberpunk, as personally, as I said, I'm kind of, to be honest with you, Phil, is that I've encountered just second string issues with the game, and no more than what's with the other releases from Sony and Ubisoft, etc. That they've been castigated for. That's just my experience, right? And nothing I can say that has really derailed or my engagement of my imagination, right? When I'm in terms of playing this game, I'm not a director, creator, artist, or coder, and I've said that a few times. But I can see, sense, and feel and appreciate, the effort and the maths involved in producing. Such a unique video game, and that's I still feel that way. I can respect that everyone's expectations may not have been met in terms of what they sort of introspectively sort of understood and expected the game to be. And I think that goes to back what Mav was saying in terms of messaging. I just kept open-minded in terms of what this game is, because, as you said, it's an open-world game, and you see people arguing, is it or isn't it an RPG, and etc. So I don't want to get into the semantics of that. For me personally, this is one of the best examples of an extremely impressive, unique open-world video game. And it's not just me. I point to the 240,000 mostly positive reviews on Steam, which somewhat attest to what I'm saying, but it also kind of provides evidence to the divide and appreciation of fundamentally of the game. But if you take away all the and again, as Mav and as Miss Lupa was saying, if you take away all the scurrilous, sort of malicious, tongue-in-cheek, inessential, negligible, and sort of I would say even sort of unsubstantiated social media comments, YouTube videos, and as I think somebody mentioned, even national news reports, which was quite surprising.
Yeah, it's made it to the BBC, Telegraph, the Independent. You know, a game's in trouble when the bloody mainstream media in the UK pick up on it.
But Phil, for me, the simple and passive and logical takeaway is that the high-reaching and sort of adventurous vision for the game hasn't quite been completely realized for different reasons, right? But how OpenCDPR, with what they want to do, what they want to achieve, the heights that they want to achieve. And it's not always possible. No publisher in my mind or developers attain those, right? Especially when they want to break new ground. So broadly speaking, from a different perspective, yet again with a different hat on, I think that time had run out. I think resources have maybe seemingly fallen short in terms of how much they wanted to invest, and we've heard, right, there's no smoke without fire, that the talent has been drained of energy, and no doubt other factors have hindered the ability of CDPR to develop and execute the conceived project that they had in mind. Especially to the highest possible level or degree that would have led to the success of something far greater than we would have anticipated. And I think that CDPR, I don't know, maybe, you've heard people on the internet saying, hey, look, should we put, developers on a pedestal? And I think that some of us have been kind of carried away with what to expect. But over the next 5 years or so, if I'm looking at from CDPR's management point of view and the shareholders' point of view, I think it's maybe could we say that it's going to be 5 years until their next mainline title comes online for CDPR? I mean, so that means that Cyberpunk 2077, in my opinion, is the lifeblood or main revenue stream, right, for CDPR. So it's in their best interest to set things right, and I believe that's something that they will do, and that's something gamers and supporters of CDPR can hang their hat on, given CDPR's historical support for Witcher 3, I believe the title is. And look, for me, if I can say in terms of Sony and so on and so forth, I know because you kind of touched on that. It's really difficult. I believe that Sony and CDPR made the right call. I actually think it's on CDPR's website, or it has been reported officially in a statement that they had a discussion with Sony and they came to an arrangement or an agreement, made the right call, pulling the game from the store. It arguably protects CDPR's longer-term financial interests. Again, this is just a layman's opinion, right? But it's obviously one to think about, right, before coming to any sort of conclusion. But I've spoken to people that are not in the community, that are not, sort of crazy gamers like we are or whatever. But given how many consumers it's given me food for thought to sort of look at how many consumers will inevitably possibly abuse the system of being able to play the game and then request a refund. And I've seen some really funny things in the DMs, and people saying, look, I paid for the game, I've got a refund, but they've deleted the game from my console, so I can't access it. So it's hilarious.
Exactly, it's ridiculous. It just goes to show you the mindset, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you can also now start to look at CDPR's long-term financial interests, because if people are going to play the game, request the refund, and then I say to them, well, isn't that slightly unconscionable? But those people redeem themselves by sort of grasping a false truth, which is to say that, oh no, but I'll just repurchase it in the future, which they perhaps might, but obviously with one eye on the fact that it may only cost $30 in the future, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And with the allure and sort of sumptuous DLC that might possibly be attached, as Miss Lupa might said. So I think this is a real issue in the industry, and I think so many consumers are playing the game for 5, 10, 20 or 50 hours. And again, just go read the reviews on Steam and declaring that it was broken and they want their money back. I mean, it could be argued that, and I think this is something maybe for another topic, for another time, but what determines a refund and at what point? Simply put, I think that we are in an era, and I probably don't live in this era, I'm probably still back in the 1800s now myself, but where sort of entitlement, control and having the upper hand is far more prevalent and deep-seated than I would say honesty, goodwill and kind-heartedness, right? And I look at Microsoft's unique position in this situation, and I also wanted to talk about some other aspects as well, due to Microsoft having, I think it's the marketing rights, Dave.
Yep.
I was watching something in a roundabout way on the UK TVs, and you guys in the UK probably know better than me, but I was seeing an incredible amount of investment from Microsoft, a considerable amount in advertising CDPR's Cyberpunk, I think, across all sorts of media, press outlets, especially on the TV channels. And sort of given the nature and interest of this sort of commercial partnership, I guess Xbox may have had a larger say in making the game available on in the store, albeit with a warning attached. I believe it is.
I agree.
As I pre-ordered it, so I don't know. So, and although I'm not sure if refunds apply to purchases that take place as of today, that's something else I don't know. Because if you do buy it today, given the warning, can you get a refund? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
So overall, I don't have any issue with either platform holder regarding their approach to sort of placate or remedy the scenario that the three of them find themselves in, right? I simply, no, I was going to say I simply can't understand, but I can understand both Sony and Xbox extending a huge amount of risky leeway to CDPR in allowing them to ship a game that, from my experience, would never have passed certification, especially from my dealings with them. And I can tell you now, legal waivers would have definitely been signed, because I've signed a few with.
Oh, that's interesting. In what way? What do you mean?
Because basically, so when you get your bug checks, basically there can be bugs, major, minor, critical, etc., and so on and so forth. I've got the exact terminology, but it is slightly different. And again, if they think that there might be some recourse or legal issue with it, what Sony's legal department do is, before you get certification, is provide you with a document to sign. So basically they foresee issues, and it is just sort of like, in effect, to hold them sort of legally harmless in case there is, the issue is more prevalent. And it's sometimes
the platform holder, you mean?
Yeah, to hold the platform legally harmless. So however, Sony and Microsoft, even though you sign that, can still kick your game off their respective stores, or out of DADC and Sonopress respective production lines. DADC manufactures all of Sony's products and discs, and Sonopress manufactures all of Microsoft discs, if indeed and if they choose to do so. So then you've got the status and sort of future of CDPR. So I made some notes on that as well. And then again, from their business perspective, right, you think that developers and publishers and we talked about this, I think, Phil, in one of your shows, that aren't publishers and developers kind of fed up of shipping unoptimized games that give back sort of negative commercial and financial implications. And I don't know what it was. I think it might have been on some sort of major franchise or brand and the company itself. Anyway, it does affect that, right? So, and you only have to look at Days Gone, right, suffering from some poorly received critic review scores from last year, just for having some bugs and glitches and so on and so forth. And I don't think Sony, Nintendo, or any major company that doesn't place their content, into Game Pass, to the digital buffet, can afford to release poorly optimized content, especially when, what is it, 200 or 300 million that's been put into Cyberpunk. It's a huge, massive financial risk, and they don't have several games to fall back on like EA or Ubisoft and so forth. And if this becomes the norm, it's a slippery, spidery road in itself, and probably an entirely new topic. The reason why I bring up Days Gone as an example, it was released almost 2 years ago, and you would think that CDPR and other publishers would have looked at that and noted that, we've got to be careful, because this can actually happen to us. And but more importantly for me, and apologies, I may sort of poorly represent the point here, as I'm not an ex-gamer, so it would have been good to actually have him on board. But more from a development standpoint, what I see and sense are strengths and frailties, and perhaps issues in the Red Engine itself and the development pipelines across all disciplines that have not been addressed since the launch of Witcher 3. CDPR, I think, have been caught out with a cross-generational release. I think that definitely has played a part in it, because there's no way they could have predicted how many units and COVID and extra from 2 years ago, let alone a year ago even. So their studio and technology, I think, is something that they need to look at, and how they're going to invest in that and overcome issues like this in the future. But perhaps I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, but it was sometime a Saturday or last week, I was saying, maybe they should evaluate the Unreal Engine 5 going forward, and at least in what that has to offer, and implement those features into the Red Engine. But I sense that it has let them down a little bit and somewhat. And but yeah, in terms of where they are now and how they come back, look, you've seen Sony from nearly filed bankruptcy 10 years ago and where they are now, right?
Yeah.
You've seen Nintendo come back from the Nintendo Wii U disaster, right? If Amazon Prime can amass 150 million subscribers in less than 40% of the time it took Netflix to amass 190 million users, right? If you look at Samsung overcoming the exploding, what was it, the Note 7 or something, you know, and since then they've overtaken, I think they've overtaken Apple as the most popular selling brand of devices in Japan, right? If Xbox, just looking at them, can capitalize on its failures of the past and at this present time seemingly sort of reinventing, rejuvenating, restoring itself, I guess my point is that a public company and its founding and appointing management has to consistently perform and overcome inevitable situations such as these. And I'm sure that they will put all the fireworks and pandemonium, shut the door on that to one side, and put in motion a plan to recover from this certain circumstances. But it's learning from them. But again, we go back to then the customer, who are gamers, and we are incredibly sort of fickle, and we can be avaricious as well in terms of our nature. And it's prevalent amongst gamers, and I'm not sure, you know, will they allow them, you know, to succeed as well, because we play a major part in that. In that sense, just in closing, I would say that they've got my kind of full support, and I would gladly have paid $80 for the game. Phil, I'm enjoying it that much, and I know enjoyment and engagement and software and genres is all very subjective, but pretty for me that this game sort of outmatches any of the other sort of games that I've played so far this year. I haven't finished it, so I can't categorically say that, but so far so good. So, but yeah,
that's and you made some very good points, and you're right. That, you know, there is, you know, when you're a single studio like that, and you do create one megaton game every, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, it is a bit of a shit or bust strategy, isn't it? Because you do absolutely have to make sure that the next product you launch is going to be as successful as you've marketed it to be, and that's obviously where CDPR have obviously found themselves. And like you say, they cannot afford for this to fail, and they won't. And like you say, thankfully they've got a pedigree of, you know, The Witcher 3 under their belt, which everyone absolutely loves, and also the fact that it launched semi-broken and then they absolutely fixed it. So thankfully they've got that going for them. But I also pick up on your point where you say that actually I think they had to change strategies on the fly. I think they actually planned to launch, obviously we know they planned to launch for the last generation, or at the time it would have been the current generation back in April. But when they realised that they had to push it out possibly up to the launch of the next generation, perhaps their focus shifted slightly, thinking, right, well, you know, there's going to be lots of sales and hype around the next generation. Perhaps that's where we need to focus our attentions and actually let the current gen, or last gen as it is now, slip slightly, and that's why it's probably not in quite the shape that it should be.
If you remember, Bob, also that one of their delay letters said that they were having trouble optimizing for so many different versions of the game. Right. Yeah. So they were talking about 9 different versions of the game that they had to optimize for. So that was their last reason of delay. So definitely that played a factor.
But
yeah,
I think
perhaps they were just being a bit over ambitious.
I think there's another point that you raised actually in the first topic that we were discussing in terms of, you know, how companies have coped, etc., with COVID. How do people sort of bridge that gap of being able to tap somebody on the shoulder, gather around a monitor and say, listen guys, what can we do here? We've got design here, we've got animation here, we've got coding here, how do we deal with this problem? And in the West, maybe, and in the key cities like maybe Los Angeles, Tokyo, Montreal, etc. I'll throw in Texas just to make Mav feel at home. You know, they've got the infrastructure in terms of internet and broadband, you know, that's available to them. When I was in Poland, the outside of studio, you know, out sort of main, you know, sort of how can I put it, like smart city sort of hub. The internet infrastructure is pretty poor, and a lot of people that work at CDPR and some of the other studios are working in city centres, and they can't afford always to sort of live just down the road. They typically travel and use the underground system to travel about an hour. So and the internet out there is not as robust, and I think that infrastructure issue may have played a part in terms of not being able to cope with COVID and being able to do the best that they possibly could for optimizing the game and so on and so forth. Maybe, as I said, other sort of more established studios and companies in more advanced cities and so on and so forth. So anyway, I thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. I completely agree. It's Timmy on Xbox Live has messaged us saying, most games will have bugs and glitches at launch. Some of them break the game, and there's been some chat saying that, do we think that this has been pounced on quite like it has because Microsoft had the marketing rights and it was an opportunity to sort of damage that sort of perceived brand loyalty between Microsoft and CDPR. It's an interesting point. I don't know. It certainly could be the case, I guess, to a certain degree. It might be a motivating factor behind Sony's decision, but I'm steering into conspiracy waters now. So, Puxley, where are we with the chat, my friend?
Yes, I was hoping to do this quite soon. I'm aware of time as well.
Yep.
Some of the comments I've got saved are from about half an hour ago, but I think they're all still pretty relevant, so I will quickly zip through these, and I won't necessarily do them all in order. So, start off here, one of the first ones I had was from Pong So, who said CDPR didn't talk to Xbox or Sony before they made the refund statement, which I'm sure upset Sony due to their basic no-refund policy. She's the Elite says, I haven't had a single crash on Series X or OG Xbox One, and I got the performance I expected from both.
Okay.
Moan Dog Gaming says, I have it on the Series X, and there were only a couple of bugs, but nothing to make me hate the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then She's No Elite says, again, I think the media seem to think they would... sorry, I'll read that again. I think the media seem to think people would have high-end PC performance out of their base game systems, and then idiot fans expected the same. I'm going to skip a comment. I'm going to come back to another one. So, what else do I have here? I've got another comment here from Pong So, who says CDPR will bend over backwards to make Cyberpunk everything they had originally envisioned. They will give back to the community just like they did with The Witcher 3. They will make this right. Which, again, we've covered in great detail, which I completely agree with. And similarly to that as well, She's No Elite also says, I have no doubt CDPR will do everything in their power to make this better and better. We saw how they supported Witcher 3. All the hate they are getting is attention-seeking.
Well, you know what? I mean, I don't know how you sit with Cyberpunk. You're still yet to get your Series X, obviously. I've heard nothing but positive praise out of everyone in our chat tonight, the panel. Everyone's had positive things to say about it. Okay, my expectations were already set that there would be a few bugs and perhaps performance dips here and there, but like you say, that happens with every game. What's your take, Puxley? Let's imagine you get Cyberpunk on Christmas Day as well. What's your take on it? Will you be playing it straight away?
Oh, definitely. I have no qualms at all about jumping in. Again, for me, it's the real question for me is the balancing act between how much time do I put into either, as in like either being how much time do I give Assassin's Creed before I jump to Cyberpunk, before I jump to something else, before I jump back to either of those again. It's just a balancing act for me. And the games themselves, I'm really looking forward to it. I've seen a few videos online and some other stuff. And despite again all the bad press that we've seen, and a lot of the good points that VJ and Lupa and Mav as well brought up, that despite all the bad press, I just can't wait to jump into it. I think it looks like a fantastic game. It does bring me on to another comment I saw actually from I think a new listener, Romancy, who says, first off, they say, Green Pass Gaming, I've subbed to you and I really like your podcast. Thank you very much for your support. I really appreciate that, or we appreciate that. But one comment, one question they posed earlier I find quite interesting. So they say, do you think female characters have been ascribed the kind of agency and power that their male counterparts have? And if so, can you identify one heroine / Cyberpunk stands out in particular? And for me, I mean, the immediate things for me were, again, a lot of games more recently have kind of ascribed this model of you can pick your sex.
Yeah, Valhalla does that. Yeah.
Yeah, and my opinion, I mean, I've watched the videos of Cyberpunk of both the male and the female character. Again, I know it's first person, but it's, through like the voice lines, right? And for me, personally, if you just want my opinion on it, I've watched gameplay of both listening to the male voice lines and the female. And for me, the female lead actually, for me, feels like it might be a better fit to how I envision the story being. But then I think the game's been made in such a way that you can almost make your own story out of the story that they've given you, if that makes sense. Yep. And of course, there's been other games, which, as you say, you've just mentioned Assassin's Creed, which have done it, where you can, the story is almost agnostic to the sex that you are, and that it kind of works whichever way. in terms of my opinions on the question in general, I mean, I would argue that I think it's quite easy to say that you definitely do see more male centered characters as you do female, but I think that it's slowly starting to change.
I think it is, and I know it's one example out of millions, but things like Perfect Dark and Joanna Dark and things like that. I think playing as lead female characters is becoming more prevalent. Thank God. Assassin Lupa, did you play as a male or a female, just out of interest?
I didn't play Cyberpunk yet.
No, sorry, Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed, I tried 10 minutes of the male character, didn't like it, changed to Cassandra, brilliant. In Valhalla, I allowed the Animus to choose for me, and they chose me female.
Okay, that's cool.
I'm enjoying it.
They knew.
She's pretty good. I think there are more and more games that are giving you a choice, which I'm pleased about. Obviously, I like to play as a woman, but if the acting isn't very good, then I will change to the male.
Yeah, no,
and
that's
vice
fair.
versa.
And how does Watch Dogs cater for that? I mean, you can chop and change between lots of people, can't you?
Yeah, you can change from an old lady to a young man. You can change from a tech to a crim. You can change all sorts of things in that game. So that game is open anyway. Having not played it yet, but having seen an awful lot of videos on it.
I think the gaming industry, I think those barriers are starting to be broken down, thankfully, and the door is further open than it's ever have been. But there is probably still a huge, particularly obviously if you're talking historically as well, looking at games that have been, there's obviously historically a large dominance of male lead characters. To be honest,
can I add something to this before we get around the panel as well? Sorry,
go on.
Sorry, Lupa, if you had an extra thing to say.
It's okay. I just wanted to say that started off with Tomb Raider being a female, and as you said, Perfect Dark, and really and truly, it lapsed off for a long few years, and it was only those that you could play. But now, yes, it's definitely opening up more.
Just the extra points I had to that as well before we go around the panel on this. I think Gears 5 has done a relatively good job on this as well. Again, we had Kate as the main character for it, and actually, I want to give extra commendation as well to the DLC, because even though there's no real main character, I would argue, in the Hivebusters DLC, but I'm really sorry, I can't remember the character's name, but the female that is part of Scorpio Squad, is it Keegan Mack and what's her name? Can anyone please remind me?
I thought it was Scorpio, or was that just the squad?
Scorpio Squad is the name. I can't remember her character, but she's like a in the state of the world, she's like in the fictional tribe island from somewhere, and she's got tattoos and the dreads and stuff, and obviously the dark skin, which again is another big thing we're seeing up and coming in the gaming world of heroines and stuff. But I thought her character was absolutely awesome, and I said this in a tweet again, like the character development for all of those characters were absolutely brilliant, and how each one had a backstory. And I think at least in how it was told in Hivebusters specifically, like I think the male characters had just as big of a the female characters had as much of a biggest part of being in the squad as the male. Like, it didn't feel like the female was weaker or anything like that. Like, they had just as much power, if not more so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I thought it was fantastic. And I hope games drive that forward. Sorry, that's all I wanted to add.
No, absolutely, completely concur with that. Yeah.
Do we want to go around the panel with this, or?
Can do. Anyone else got anything to throw in, VJ? F?
I was going to say something about the staff outcry that reported by Jason Schreier, but I think I've talked enough about CDPR and all the other stuff. So I'll just shut up.
Mav, do birds of a feather? Do we stick to our own gender, as it were? I mean, do you play as female characters when you have the option, or? I mean, to be honest, when I play Tomb Raider and I'm playing as Lara Croft, it makes no difference to me whatsoever. In fact, it couldn't be anything other than the way that it is, if you see what I mean. Mav, the choice of male and female. Do you choose to play as a female?
No, usually I choose to play as a male, but sometimes, like if I go through like a second playthrough, I'll go through and I'll choose like a girl character, and I've done that quite a bit. Like I like to play around with different character models and different types of characters, and I think it's fun. I do like that there's a lot more games that actually have female lead characters, which I think is even more important for me than like the creative character options, because the story and focus is actually on that as well. So it's that, you know, you have voice acting and all of that kind of stuff really as a part of it. And like Control also was one where you had a female character.
Last of Us.
Yeah, Last
Horizon.
of Us. So it's become more and more prevalent, and that's good to see, because we did go through a long time when it was just like so focused on, hey, these, you know, huge brooding dudes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as me personally, I certain games, I think the narrative, it was better, like Lupa said with Assassin's Creed, the not this one but the last one, the one with Cassandra, and she was a better character than the other guy, I think. Like I kind of felt it was Alex something. What was his name? Alexios, yeah. So he kind of felt like an afterthought, and like I didn't enjoy the story as much as when I had started it with her. But as far as usually, like I'll just kind of create a guy, and then later I'll maybe, when I play it again, I'll do it as a girl.
Actually, I just totally forgot. I play a lot of Sea of Thieves recently, and my character is female.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Any particular choice? Any reason? I mean,
no, I just don't have any. I mean, I'm playing Spiritfarer, another female lead. It's I just don't have any issue. I think as a species, Mav, you can tick the box again. You know, I think we need to just see past color, creed, and gender, and just move forward. But you know, it's taking its time. We've evolved in other ways, but yeah, hopefully we can this way too.
Yeah, funny enough, I just googled female leads in games. There's loads. You know, Bayonetta. There's so many.
Bayonetta was badass.
Yeah, no, exactly. And obviously Battlefield. Let's go through some of these. Yeah, Assassin's Creed. Last of Us. Yeah, and to
indie game has also mentioned that as well. That some indie titles again that have made some of the like game awards and stuff, or big nominations were, you know, Raji was a big one, had a female lead. That's true. Yeah. Hellblade, of course. Call of the Sea, Metroid. I mean, that was from like mid '80s when Nintendo did that one, and Celeste as well. I mean, there's as you say, I suppose it's more about bringing it more into the limelight, isn't it? And I've just seen a comment here from Pong Soul as well that says, if I had the choice, 90% of the time I would create a female character. I find the voice acting generally better, and the guys will wind up sounding like major a-holes.
You know what? I concur with that. I'm playing The Witcher, and I held my hand up as to not have completed The Witcher 3 before, because I struggled to get into that game, although I'm just starting to get into it. But the lead character talks like Batman. He talks like this all the time. And it drives me nuts. It's just so unnatural. No one talks like that. So, I completely concur.
Call of the Sea has a really good narration with a female lead as well.
That's true.
Recore actually was another one that had a female.
I really liked Recore.
Snap.
Yeah, I loved Recall. I got stuck on a section where I got screwed over by a dodgy save. I had no ammo or anything, and I got confronted by a large boss, and he wipes me out in a few seconds. And of course, every time I reload the game, I've got no ammo again. So it come to an abrupt end.
This also goes into multiplayer games as well. You can look at Overwatch and Apex Legends as the character choices. There's a heavy focus on female characters.
Fortnite,
Modern Warfare as well. They obviously have female characters you can select.
Yep. No, it's good, and so thank you for bringing that up as a topic. And perhaps it's one. Well, I guess we've just done it really, but perhaps it's one that we can do. And we did talk about Women of Xbox, didn't we? There was a program run back in July, and we kind of did a bit of a topic around that as well, actually. But anything else, Pucks? Are we nearly done?
Yes, I mean, I'm aware of time. I'm aware we're probably going to be wrapping this up relatively soon, and I think this is a great comment for me to end on, because I can also expand on it as well. So this actually comes from Psychonauts8. Said it a little while ago, but I also saw some nice back and forth from the chat as well. So this was directed to a few people, Pongsol, Lupa, Wakanda, and myself, who says, thank you for everything and being my friend this year. And I just wanted to extend that to say thank you as well, and to everyone in the chat, because Flap and I started this at the end of July, very beginning of August, Green Pass Gaming. mainly just because we had our own big passion and enthusiasm for gaming, and we didn't really belong to any community. We're just talking amongst ourselves, and we kind of thought, well, why don't we just do it? We like talking about games and playing games. Let's give it a go. And I remember when we first started this, we set out to do as good a job as we could, not really expecting an awful lot. I know we kind of had some jokey comments between us, and I know Flab did with his daughters saying, how many. I know we don't want to play the numbers game, but just kind of in banter was, how many subscribers did you think we'll have by Christmas? And it was no more than, say, 150 at the time, which we didn't even expect to get that because we just wanted to talk games and enjoy it with the rest of the community. But to see that we've got upwards of 645 people subscribed to us, and even more so on Twitter, and how we've all formed this community together. So as much as you thank us for being your friend, I also want to thank you and everyone else as part of this community and the panel for also being on this journey with us. And we've got a lot more that we want to do into the new year. And I don't think it's much more I can say than that. I want to thank you for being our friend and joining us on this journey, which is Green Pass Gaming. And I really hope you all stick on for the ride moving forward into the future.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, I'm absolutely so grateful for the everyone I've met in this community. To be honest, I don't profess to be any kind of expert in this. Everything we do is opinion based. I'm not an insider. I have no particular experience in the industry, unlike some. Everything I say is based on my opinion, and we openly disclose that and stuff. And it's just been so fantastic to meet up with everyone. We've had so many people on the show. Like you say, we started in July, and we've met so many fantastic people. VJ, you've been along for the ride from the very beginning, so really grateful for your input. We've had people like Fuxley.
That's your new name. What's going to stick?
Fuxley. Wakonda accent. So yeah, Fuxley. Gonna have to change it.
That's what his wife calls him.
We've had so many great people, and even yourself, Mav, to see your your channel start and begin and grow like it has. It's so great to see, these channels grow. Indie Gamer, we saw Indie Gamer roll over to 1,000 subs. We saw Archimedes Boxenberger roll over to 1,000 subs. We saw Boom roll over to 7,000. I think his goal was 5,000 by Christmas, and here he is at 7,000. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And we've had such a fantastic year, and it's all down to the community and how great everyone is and how nice and friendly everyone is, because there are lots of toxic elements out there, and somehow we seem to avoid them, and they don't perhaps like what we do. I don't know, but whatever it is, they seem to stay away, and we like that. And to be honest, we do try and take a tough stance on them as and when we can or have to. But yes, so thank you to everyone in the chat and everyone part of our community. Really grateful. Mav, let's just do a quick one on your channel, because you're the only one other than us, obviously, on with the channel. I don't believe you've got your own channel, have you, Lupa?
No, I have not.
And I don't think you're starting one up either, VJ, are you? Or are you?
No, you've adopted me now.
No, that's fair enough. No, that's fine. So, Mav, tell us about your channel.
So I started my channel back around March or April or something like that. Just kind of wanted to put up some gaming videos, and ended up doing a lot of streaming and started my podcast. And then I kind of discovered the community because I did that. So it's been awesome and fun. But yeah, you can check out my channel at Fun Speculation here on YouTube, where I have the Xbox Ultimate podcast, which is live every night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Also on Twitter at Fun Speculation. You can find me there. On Tuesdays, you can check me out on Four Guys with Quarters with Clowns and VJ here. And also Midway Monster, where we talk all things gaming. And there's also a new podcast being started by a friend of ours in the community, God's Geeks. And Lupa and I will be on that show as well. It's the Extraordinary Podcast. And it's going to be a fun time. So, if you want to check out any of my streams where I'm just playing whatever game, I play a lot of different genres, a lot of different kinds of games. We have sometimes a lot of people in the community will hop on and just kind of play as well with my wife and I. It's a fun time. And then, it's been a great time this year. It's really
I love the fact you do it with Caitlin. That's great. I really do like that. And to be honest, Mav, the thing I like about your channel is you play games that I haven't necessarily played yet. So I'll just sort of tune in and watch you play some stuff, thinking, oh, actually, I quite like that. And I really appreciate that, because outside of that, you've only really got reviews and stuff like that left, and they can be biased in one way or the other. Nothing quite beats watching someone play a game to think, actually, yeah, I like that. And to be honest, when we put our game videos up, when we do our normal sort of podcasts, we normally get people saying, oh, what's this game? That looks really good. And it's really good. I love your channel, and I do encourage anyone listening to this show that hasn't checked out Mav Fun Speculations channel, definitely go and check it out. So thank you for being here, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
No worries. VJ, thank you for being here. Like you say, we've adopted you. Well, part of the furniture, one of the family.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, mate. I mean, it's been a bit of a roller coaster year, hasn't it? And we've discussed many topics, up and down, backwards and forwards, left and right. We've discussed certain topics hundreds of times, it seems. And on the, sometimes on the show, an off the cuff sort of comment will come up, and it opens up a whole new topic, a little bit like we did a second ago with the comment about female lead protagonists. But thank you for being on this journey with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you know, I sort of never take anything for granted. So again, thanks for inviting me onto the show and giving me an opportunity to sort of express myself. And I know I carry on sometimes for a bit too long, but yeah, if you can put up with that, and I'm looking forward to the new year. And on that, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Whether you celebrate it or not, and hopefully a much brighter new year for everybody. In fact, and that's
fantastic. Well, you can express yourself all you want, just as long as you don't expose yourself. That's a completely different thing.
That's the trouble you'll have with Mr. Tucci.
Yes, he's a bad influence on you.
Yeah.
Assassin Lupa, thank you for being on the show. It's been far too long to get you on the show. We did try, and there was obviously some technical issues, but really enjoy your input. You give it just the gamer's perspective that you give it, and I really appreciate that. So thank you for being on the show. Thank you for your time for being on the show. And just out of interest, Lupa, does that mean wolf or does it mean werewolf?
It's wolf.
Just
the
wolf
whole
in general.
name in Spanish means Assassin Lupa stands for she-wolf.
Ah, oh really?
But Lupa is from lupus, i.e. wolves, which I love. And obviously Assassins from Assassin's Creed.
So that's your bag, is it? Assassin's Creed's your go-to, is it?
It is.
Cool.
Yes, I've played every single one.
Excellent. What's your best one? Your favourite one, just out of interest?
Old Gen 2, New Gen Odyssey so far, because I haven't completed Valhalla, but we shall see.
Yeah, I will be interested to know whether Valhalla takes the top spot on the current gen, and I liked 2. In fact, I was cheated out of 100 or 1,000 gamer score on Assassin's Creed 1. Actually, I got a glitch. Did you? Was it on one of the
chest glitch?
No, it wasn't the chest. It was the what do they call them? The Templars. It was one of the Templars. I think you had to kill 10 Templars or something, and it glitched.
Yeah. I had a chest glitch, and to complete my 1,000 gamer score, I had to open this chest, and every time I walked up to it, disappeared.
Oh, really? Oh no,
So
that's teasing you.
Yeah,
did you get a refund, Lupa?
No, damn, I didn't think of it. It's silly me.
Bloody Ubisoft.
Yeah, cheats. Anyway, no, I'm just waiting for a remake of Assassin.
So you're like me. You're stuck on about 950, are you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I had the bad experience of the whole losing every game I ever played saves.
Oh,
because I transferred from the 360 to the X, the One X, and it didn't take my saves over.
Oh no!
And I had to start them all from scratch. So some of them aren't completed yet because I have a massive backlog.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I've 100%ed quite a few.
Well, fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on. I didn't get to say that.
No,
I'm very grateful for the invite. And I would like to end on a high note for Xbox and say that in the next year, 2021, there are 17 date, most of them coming in 2021.
And you know what?
74
It
games.
starts in about 3 weeks, doesn't it, with the medium?
Yeah.
Woohoo!
And then
Fantastic.
there's Exo Mecha, Crossfire X, Dusk to Dawn, Scorn, The Gunk, Halo Infinite. So many I could go on, but I
Oh,
won't
it's fantastic.
because I know you want to get off.
Extinction, Warhammer.
Yeah, Warhammer.
It's going to be a great 2021, and there's no better time to be an Xbox gamer. Oh yeah, Flight Sim. I can't believe that's been delayed till summer, but that's a different story. So fantastic. Well, Puxley, again, thank you for being my wingman, as it were, and looking after the chat and stuff. We've had a crazy year, haven't we?
Oh, it's been it has been a crazy year. Again, I know I've said it before, but I will say it again. The growth of the channel and the community that we've built, and just the kind souls that we have in our community, and just everything that I read and see and get tweeted for every day. Even going back to like the post-launch Series X. I mean, I even had members of the community personally tweet me to say that this place has got stock. See if you can get one. And
Yeah.
it's those small things, as well as people engaging in the live chats as well, and the comments that we see after the videos. It's those small moments which kind of it's shown to me what it does mean to be as a part of a community and what it can do for you. It almost goes like you have from your circle of virtual and actual friends that you have in the real world and elsewhere. It kind of you see it almost expand exponentially, which is what I've kind of realized this year, and I think it's such a fantastic thing. And I've just seen a thing here from Choices Matter Gaming as well, who says you're breathtaking. Well, I say no, you're breathtaking. But I haven't got any awards to give you, I'm afraid, for that one. But I love the line. But no, it's been a fantastic year. Let's say my own Series X is coming in a few days' time. I think it's been a fantastic year for gaming, all in all. I'm really looking forward to next year. Really hoping that everyone in the community is happy to join us on our GPG journey into 2021 and beyond. And yeah, I've got. Apart from wanting to say thank you to you all, I do, from our friends in the community and otherwise, outside of the UK, I don't know obviously your local laws or restrictions, so I hope you all have a very happy holidays and Merry Christmas as much as you can, celebrating with friends and family. And for those of you here in the UK, again, depending on where you are in the region, I do hope you can enjoy it as much as you can and see the family and friends that you can within this time. And as much as it sucks for all of us, I do hope that you will have as good a time as you can do. And I can't wait to reconvene and carry on back into 2021.
Yeah, absolutely concur. Couldn't have put it better myself. Yeah, it's just so grateful for everything that's happened around us and all of the love and support that's been shown. Yes, very, very tricky year for all of us, and thankfully, the one reason we're all here is the one reason that's kind of got a lot of people through this year, and that's gaming and how fantastic gaming is. It's a very, very bright future for console gaming and gaming in general, and I am so excited for 2021 to see what that has to offer. And we will be here doing our little channel, doing our little podcast on Sunday evening. So if you want to tune in and see what's going on, we would absolutely love to see you all in the chat. Thank you very much for being our community. We would literally be nothing without you. When we first started, there was literally 2 people watching our videos, and that was me and Pux, in all fairness, and now we're into the hundreds of people watching. We get nice, kind comments, and couldn't thank you more. Everyone, if you celebrate Christmas, we hope you have an absolutely fantastic time and a well-deserved break. It's an opportunity for a lot of us to sort of catch up on some games if we're off work and stuff. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being awesome. No, you're awesome. And we will see you soon in the new year. Thank you very much.